This is a Milne Road Studios production. With Mr. Brian Hemming. Hello, Mr. Brian Hemming. How are you?
Good, Ash. Good to see you again.
I'm not even sure if I've hit the go-ahead button. I don't think I have. How bad's that? So we're not even going.
Okay.
God, sorry, dude. I told you I might be a bit rough. I couldn't work out why. Oh, it is going.
Is it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, we're going. We're a minute on. I weren't quite sure why we didn't have the applause button.
Oh, I'm so glad I came back for it.
God. Why isn't that? There we go. It's all delayed. I'm still Imperial, mate. I've been overseas as well, so you'll have to excuse quite a few of the errors.
I reckon there's too many of these already.
You may be right. How you going, buddy? Good to see you.
Yeah, really good. Very good.
Friday afternoon again. You're back here for another visit?
Yeah, it seems like ages ago since we did the last one, but we never got to an end, so...
I think November's gone forever.
Yeah.
I think we got back on Bathurst Day, which was around the 13th of October. And I swear I've been back 12 weeks already. It's gone that slow. And
it just seems everything becomes a distant memory. Once you get back into the swing of things, it just goes.
Where have you been, mate? You've been OS again?
Yeah, we did a cruise from Honolulu down to through the islands in Hawaii and then down to French Polynesia and did the islands down there and came back from Tahiti, Papeete.
Yeah, nice. How many days was the boat cruise?
14, so we tacked a couple of days
nice.
on at Waikiki at the start and a couple of days at Papeete at the end. So 14 days, so 4 islands in Hawaii and 4 days at sea getting down south and then 4 islands in French Polynesia.
What was the pick of the islands in Hawaii? You got 4 of them, haven't you? Or...
Yeah, 4 that we went to.
Yep.
I'd have to say Maui. That was probably the cleanest, the good stuff to see, and the best guide we had as well. He was sensational. On a trip they called Road to Hana, and he right from the day we first had an email from him, he was sensational. Just it's funny how they get all these guides over there with all these different backgrounds. They're not locals. This guy was an ex emergency services fireman from Arizona somewhere. But before that, he joined the army, was an infantryman in the Desert Storm, worked his way up into ranger status, gave that away for emergency services, then decided, nah, on a life change. He's had enough of what was happening in the States mainland and got over to Hawaii and put himself through uni for 2 years on volcanology, so he could talk about the volcanoes and about Maori history and culture. So it wasn't much he didn't know.
Was he my age?
Yeah.
Because he would have, Desert Storm was
60,
91.
60.
Yeah, he'd be. I'm 56, so he's around
60.
the mark.
Yeah, he's Brian was his name, coincidentally. He was just a really, really top bloke, and we gave some good raves for him after as well. So he was the standout by far when it came to tour guides.
The islands you fly to?
We flew from Adelaide, Sydney, Honolulu.
Okay, so the transfers between the islands, is it boat, is it?
Oh, yeah, we're on a cruise ship, the Norwegian Sun.
Oh, right. Okay, so you actually did cruise around there before heading back.
Yeah. So the 4 islands, sort of Oahu, then Maui, Kahai, and then Hilo, the big island. And then 4 days due south at sea until we got to Bora Bora, Riata and Taha, Maury and Tahiti. So it was really, really good. We really enjoyed it. There was a lot to see, but there was also a bit of an eye-opener. A lot of poverty, a lot of homelessness on all the islands. And a few of them would tell you straight up that, they're a victim of their own circumstances. They've built places like Bora Bora up to be a world icon in terms of destination, but they've got no infrastructure there to support it. So 5,500 people there rely only on cruise ships coming in. There's not a lot The Pride of America does them on a regular basis, and like the Norwegian Sun does it once a year. So they're heavily reliant on the crew stuff, and they're very friendly people. There's no doubt in that whatsoever. But yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener. Yeah.
No, we've done a few out there. I think we've done 3 or 4 in the immediate islands, the Noumea side, not up as high as where you went.
We did that in 2010. That's a good trip as well.
Good to see them. You know, they're all sort of similar, but different in their own sort of islands. And
Yeah.
you know, the water's clear. One trip we went with a few pending Olympic swimmers that never got there, but in regards, they were good quality swimmers, and they were going down 6-7 metres until their ears hurt, and the water was that clear. That was in Fiji, I think, on that side. But
yeah, we did the swim with the sharks, the black tips, and stingrays. So that was pretty good. They come right up to you and that sort of stuff. As long as you don't provoke them, they don't touch you. Stingrays come up and let you pat them. You know, they're big rays, so that was pretty good to see as well.
They're like a 6 foot, are they?
Oh, the bigger ones were, yeah. There's a few mantas around as well, but they don't really come close to the groups. But the water you're in is sensational. It's only chest deep.
Yeah, right.
You know, so you're not in any danger anyway. So people of all ages were getting into the water. There's no doubting that. So, we also did the swim with the humpback whales at Maury, the second last stop. And that was pretty good as well. They actually do get up close and personal. Everyone was sort of gazing around saying, well, they've gone and sort of thing. The guy says, no, get back in the water, have a look down. And there was the mother and baby just resting on the bottom. Then they started coming up. So everyone's sort of back paddling away in case this thing comes up right where they are. But yeah, that was pretty good. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're big, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Big and slow. And I know there was some stuff about the orcas were attacking boats somewhere. I don't know. That was in the Northern Hemisphere somewhere. I'm not sure.
Not there. It's strange, you know, to be in the waters like that and not see dangerous sharks. No pointers. You know, they're just not seen there. So whether the water's too warm for them or
Could
something,
be too warm.
I'm not really sure. But
could be.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good trip. Good trip. We had to. It was the things you learn as you go on these things. If you don't do good planning, you know, like the start. You get off the ship in the morning at Tahiti, and most people want to jump on a plane and fly out and go home. Well, to do that to come back to Australia is going to cost you anything up to $7,000. So we booked into a hotel in Tahiti for a couple of nights, which was good. We got a good chance to look around and a couple of good meals and so on. And then we had to fly out with Air New Zealand at 3 a.m. in the morning on the Thursday, and it only cost us about $800 a head. So there's a marked difference in change if you want to hang around for a couple of days.
Plus, you've slowed it all up as well, and you know, rather than going straight into the stress of getting onto a plane and
got to say though that 3
bullshit of airports.
3 a.m. in the morning with 100% humidity and it's about 35 degrees, and the airport's not air conditioned. It's not the best sitting around there for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, right. So how long were you gone for all up?
16 days.
Nice.
Nearly 3 weeks. Yeah.
We did a cruise when we landed in Rome. We had a couple of days there first, and then we got on because that's the Mediterranean Sea, and that was good. That was the first inland ocean that I've been in. Yeah. So you don't get all that swell that you normally get out in the Pacific or the Indian, etc. Yeah. Atlantic. So it was good. You know, you had this great big boat, Norwegian Epic, I think it might have been.
It was a Norwegian as well, yeah.
And, you know, that wasn't influenced by any of the wind. You know, it was all wind swell. It wasn't any ocean swell. So...
how'd you find the Norwegian boat?
Good, I thought it was excellent.
We quite enjoyed it. A couple of friends that were with us thought it was pretty ordinary. They sort of critical of the food and
is that right?
Some of the service, but we had no problem whatsoever. In fact, Natalie and I, we booked on... we didn't want we've always had a balcony. And we thought, what's the point? We hardly spend any time in the room except when you're sleeping. And the balcony means nothing, but it was $4,000 difference. So we said, no, we'll opt for a lower deck, midship, so you don't get any swell, and a porthole. You can't open the porthole, but at least you can see outside. So that satisfied, you know, ticked the box for Natalie. And we saved $4,000. And in the price, I think the price was about $9.5, which included the full drink package. Yeah. So we had plenty of anything up to $15, which was most.
Yep.
I mean, I was drinking Scotch most days, and Scotch and Coke. I didn't want to go straight up every day. But you'd ask for a Scotch and Coke, and you get 2/3 a glass full of Scotch and a dash of Coke. The first one I had of those, I couldn't believe it.
We had a Irish bar on this Norwegian epic, and there was a lot of Aussies on this that we didn't know, but when we were in Rome, they put all the Aussies in the same hotels. So for the first 4 days of being out there, everybody got to know everybody.
Yeah.
It was excellent. It was good fun, and you know, if you always wanted to find an Aussie, you just go up to this Irish bar on the 12th floor or whatever.
Yeah.
And we went up there one night. A couple got engaged or whatever while they're on the boat, so we rushed up there, and Mandy had a couple of milk drinks, and we'd been in the sun earlier, and it was
The old Baileys and Kahluas.
a little bit weird. She'd said to me, I might need some food. I'm feeling a little bit boozy, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, okay, we haven't had that much booze. But anyway, she said, I'm just going to the loo. So anyway, 40 minutes goes past, and there was Kath with another one of the girls there. I said, can you go in the girls' loo and just see if she's all right? Something seems a bit strange. She's got wicked guts. She could eat off the floor and not get sick. So I'm thinking, something a bit weird there. Anyway, she comes out. She said, she's feeling a bit spewy.
Ah.
And I'm thinking, okay, all right, and she said, I'll keep an eye on her. So she went. So about 90 minutes later, she's still not out. So I've stormed into the toilets, the end of the ladies' toilets, and I said, for fuck's sake, Mandy, what's going on? She said, I can't stand. And I said, oh, my God. So she come out like this, like she was almost having a seizure. And I said, what the fuck is going on? You haven't had that much to drink. So she had like full ball vertigo. She couldn't even stand. So I get her out of the toilet there, and Kath's with me as well. Bless her heart, she did very well. And I said, you can't fucking sleep there. I said, there's a camera up there looking at you laying down.
Yeah.
I said, I'll have to take you back to the room because whatever's happened. I think she might have got spiked.
Oh, wow.
She generally has rock hard guts.
Yeah.
Like she never gets crooked.
That's not good to hear.
So, but it was so unusual. And I know that we'd had a drink up on the deck, and, you know, the waiters come up and they see her. And I'm not saying that's what it was, but it was so unusual to see her in that predicament like this.
Yeah.
And I said, fucking hell, what's going on there? We need to sort that out real quick. So I think she had, because she couldn't hold anything down either. And, you know, it was all unusual, and she's a nurse, and it was all, and I said, something wrong. Come on, I'll have to take you down the room and try to sort out what's going on, because there's something going on. And within about an hour it had passed, whatever it was. But it was pretty crazy at the time.
She was back drinking.
Yeah, I don't think she had a drink for another 5 days after that or something. Until we got to Ireland, I suppose. But,
no, look, we enjoyed good service. Everything was good. In the package, there was at least one single malt Scotch I could get to. A Glen Turner, which I'd never heard of before.
No.
But it was a nice drop. But again, if I went and asked for one, I got a full glass. And to sit there and have a full glass before dinner or whatever, it's sort of half pissed by the time you get dinner. It takes it off. So in the end, you're sort of moderating around what you drink. And so the other boys were drinking Bud Light. And I didn't touch that until the last 3 days, and I wished I'd drank it earlier. It was a bloody beautiful beer.
yeah.
So we drank a lot of that.
I don't think it might be light on carbs, but I think...
Yeah, that's all. It's not light beer. It's still full strength, but it's light on carbs, very light on carbs.
So, yeah, no, they're a good-looking bottle too.
Yeah.
I know down the back of the Epic there, they had a bar that had a big TV right at the back of the boat, and it was elevated, say, 12 stories up, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a kids-free zone, so it was beautiful. You just go down there. I'd try to go down about 3 o'clock every afternoon and while you're at sea.
Yeah.
And then go down there to about 6:30, and, you know, you'd meet Americans,
we had a sports bar. That's where we'd meet every night before dinner. But there was 1,800 passengers on board, 2,000 crew, and only 5 kids.
Wow.
5 kids. How's that? And 3 of them from one family. So there was no kid issues whatsoever. Most people were pretty pleased about that. Of course, we were at sea election day, the 5th of November.
Yep.
So that was crazy sort of day because there was a lot of Americans on board, a lot of Canadians on board, and those who are committed to Trump certainly let you know it, and the others just remain silent. And of course, when the result came through, it was not the result everyone was expecting, or at least on board, and no one thought Trump was going to get in.
I'm glad he got in.
Well, we'll see what the world looks like in a couple of weeks' time.
It
Now.
might be, January might be a whole new...
I think he's got a couple of things to deal with first. I think he's already started that. He's got to get rid of the Attorney General. He's got to get all the charges against him dropped. He's got to get his convictions quashed. Once he gets all that going, he can actually run the trade as a president in a real form. But he's got to clear that stuff up first.
Be interesting to see what he does with Ukraine, whether he pulls the money out, because as he deems, he's never been involved in a war.
What Zelensky said, a big hug's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I really haven't got a stature on that war anyway, but seems to be fairly escalated at the minute.
Well, they're just trading now, so if Ukraine lift a US missile over Russia lists one of their bigger ones back, so tit for tat. It's become a sort of world war on the Ukraine front.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
And you've seen in England, they've had 4 to 6 drones going over the missile silos.
Yeah.
So there's even been talk of them that they might be semi-loaded with something, so they haven't knocked them out the air. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, the technology is probably developing quicker and faster than they can develop policy to deal with it. So, which is fairly typical of wartime process. So, yeah, it's a worry.
So Caitlin and Andy, they've been in the Andes. So at the moment they're about to get on a cruise to go from Buenos Aires down to the Antarctica and back.
Yep.
So they're about to do that, and I think Reese White's on a cruise next week over in, that region again, Noumea and all that. So there'll
Mystery Island and
be
all those,
both the kids on sort of boats somewhere crossing
yeah.
somewhere in the Pacific there. So
Talia flies out tomorrow at 6 o'clock to the US.
What's she doing over there?
She's going over with Lockie, her partner, and his family, so his mum and dad and his sister. So they're going for 5 weeks. They fly out tomorrow. And
how good.
They're doing an RV from LA down to Vegas and around the Vegas area, the Grand Canyon and all that sort of stuff. Then they flip the RV at some stage and head across to Miami and up to New York.
All right.
So I think they're doing Christmas in New York.
It'll be cold.
Oh yeah, shit yeah! You've been there at Christmas time.
Yeah, you've been there on New Year's Eve.
I always remember coming across the Staten Island ferry. It was mid-December, and I'll be standing.
It's a very cold wind coming from there.
You can't get inside where most people get on because they get on before you get on. You've got to stand out in the deck with at least 3 layers on, otherwise you're froze.
That is the Atlantic there, isn't it? Coming straight through.
Yeah.
See, they're talking about extending that out now. They're
I did see that.
looking at landfill and pushing out further again. And
it's amazing what they can do these days. So.
You think where Staten Island is, that why not put a super barge out in the Atlantic there and reduce your flow there rather than pollute that you can't pollute any more of New York anyway, Manhattan. It's you imagine chopping that off and then trying to get all the boats up the East River.
Yeah. And Reese, my Reese is they've just bought a house now in Port Lincoln. They move in on the 10th of January, so that's a big plus, big excitement in their lives.
Wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's terrific for them. So that's what they're happening. Clint, the second eldest, he's just bought a new investment property up at Agnes Waters, about 2 hours south of Gladstone on the Queensland coast. So they're heading over there for Christmas to get it up to B&B standard.
How good's that going to be?
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be. And the eldest one, he's back here. In fact, I was just chatting to him a minute ago. He's just flown back from Perth, so he's been doing some work over there for the company, looking at a new barge. So everyone's on the move. I'm not going on the move. I shouldn't say that. We're going to Mount Gambier next weekend. We've got a family reunion, so we're down there for 4 days, and we're going to actually spend Christmas in Port Lincoln.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really good.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful place. I'm still a sucker for that joint there, and
yeah, we're heading over for a week or 10 days in April to stay in Coffin Bay.
Yeah, done a bit of work over there. It's good.
Yeah, it is really nice. Good people.
Really good. Yeah, we're going to next week shoot over to Sydney. We got Mandy got some tickets for the Crowded House concert
Oh, yeah, that'll
at
be
the
good.
Opera House. So,
Yeah.
and then she picked up on the Saturday. There's some 2:00 p.m. show somewhere in the city there.
She's got too much time at night.
She's up all night. Seriously, by the time I go to bed at 7:30, she's still up at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
She's no good in the morning though.
I just noticed the other day that everyone was starting to talk about Les Mis, and I thought, I wouldn't mind going to see Les Mis again, but it's not coming to Adelaide. It's going to be Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane. So I guarantee we'll end up probably going to Melbourne to see that at some stage.
That's good though. Melbourne's pretty good. Just
Yeah.
55 minutes or whatever on the
Les
plane.
Mis is probably my most favourite of that sort of show. So
Yeah, I think you got to, like in the past, I've really shrouded and tried to push back, but these days now that I'm older, I seem to let it in the door a lot more because by the time you get there, it's fantastic once the shows start.
Yeah.
They're not shit shows; they're top quality, and before 5 minutes into it, you already lost your way into it. You're already looking for the next scene or whatever.
Yeah, I was a bit like that last weekend. We had these tickets for a concert up at Seppertsfield again. It's the second one this year we've been to there. And
was that Tanunda?
At Seppertsfield Winery.
Okay.
That's north, just out of Tanunda, yeah. The headline act, Tina Arena and Richard Marx. Not two of my favourite stars by a long shot.
Tina Arena's fantastic.
Oh, do you think?
Yeah.
I thought she was pretty opinionated, as usual.
I saw her with Billy Joel at the MCG, yeah.
So he's not a favourite of mine either. But the lead up acts were fantastic. 1927, they were brilliant as the first act.
Yep.
Then you had Southern Sons, what's his name, the lead singer? Jack Jones.
Jack Jones.
And he was brilliant. Then you had, Kate Sobrano. And
there's another
always
one.
a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And then there was another act as well. I'm trying to remember who that was. But see, Richard Marx is not high on my music calibers because I just don't know his music. And Tina Arena, I just thought she was pretty opinionated. And
when we got into Naples or Napoli, however they say it over there, we went round to Sorrento, and all I could think of was Sorrento Moon from her singing that song, and I had it in my ears the whole time we were there.
Yeah, no, she's a favourite of Soprano is a favourite of Nat, so if there's a Soprano show on, we're there normally. So
what do? Take a deck chair up and sit up there? Or?
Yeah, well, we did a few things this year. We didn't park in the main car park. We parked on the side of the road just around the corner from Seppertsfield. It's a 5-minute walk, but it was easy to get out. It was last time.
Egress was good.
We sat there, I reckon, over an hour in the car park after trying to get out. And it was only when we started seeing lights disappearing over the hill that we followed them, and someone had gone and opened all these gates up, and this trail of cars was going, and it comes out on Gomersall Road. So you missed the single gate exit down the road. So this time we parked around the corner where the big palm trees are. We took the trolley. We're not supposed to take trolleys, but we did. Put all the chairs and everything in that. Well,
Can you take your own booze in there, or?
No, shit, no.
No.
Got to buy their stuff. Because it was raining, it didn't pour, but it showered off and on
wet
the whole
enough.
time.
Yeah.
So we had ponchos and tarps and stuff like that to cover things up when it was needed. But no, it was good. The crowd was good. The show was good. So we had a good night. Pretty good night.
Yeah. I haven't been to one. I know that the one up at Manham that's similar to that down there on the waterfront there.
Sounds by the river.
Yeah, it could be that. Might be James Rain or some of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all move around anyway. But
you normally get Barnsley and all that there as well.
Yeah, but once again, I haven't ever been a big fan of big crowd areas. Like I'd love to go to the Tivoli, say, on one of the streets in the city there and sit in a pub and watch a band play.
Yeah.
Rather than go to a big open setting. But
So,
as I'm getting older, I'm
yeah. To be honest with you, I'm probably the same. Going through all the hassle of lining up, like getting in the other day, we had to line up forever.
Yeah.
I'm very low tolerant these days to fucking rude people.
Yeah.
Who think that lines aren't for them and just sort of come out and just cruise to the front line and expect to get in. thankfully, more people these days will speak up, but generally people won't say anything.
Yeah.
And we found that on board ship as well. A lot of the Americans were just blatantly rude.
There's no one else bar America.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't chat them or say something, they just think it's okay to do what they do.
If you're standing at the bar too and you're 4 deep, you'll find a yank up the front just
Well,
making his order, and you
well,
go, "Sheeskus."
That's something I picked up early on, was particularly at the main bar outside the sports bar where we spent most of our time. People would get their cruise ship pass out, and they're all coloured. So first timers there's a brown card, second timers a green card, and the rest had platinum, which were purple.
Okay.
So that was supposed to be a status thing as well. So you'd be lined up at the bar, and one of these guys would walk up and just go bang, bang on the thing with their card and flash the thing, and the waiters would jump to them.
Well, so they do get priority.
I noticed they did.
Yeah, right.
Then there were others who would hand their card over to have it swiped and have a $10 bill latched to the back of it, so they got continued service. So there's a lot of those things went on. Things that us Aussies wouldn't even bloody contemplate doing. So
No, I think we are genuinely fairly respectful. I think.
I do too. Generally, we are.
You know, it was funny when we were in Athens. We were climbing, you know, where the big columns are. I forget what it's called now.
See, distance.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Mandy said, take a photo of, you know, this thing, and I've taken a photo.
I reckon Mandy would have said that a lot of times going by your Facebook posts.
And we walk out, and then I said, "Look, Mandy, look at the stone," and I've touched it, and this guy's going. And I said, "What's with the whistle, mate?" Well, I didn't use those words. And I said to Mandy, "What's that all about?" She said, "Read the fucking sign. It says don't touch the stone." And I was looking at some part of the architecture anyway, you know, like.
Yeah, of course you were.
And I've touched it, and this guy's blown his whistle at me, and I said, "You fucking blow your whistle again."
You blow out your ass.
Look out. So I said to Manny, "Check this out." I licked my finger off, walked all the way down around the stone.
Oh, no.
And she said, "You're going to get in trouble." And I said, "Don't blow your whistle at me." You know.
Surprised man didn't walk off.
I think she did walk off. I'll see you in the Athens court somewhere, but I'm not used to someone blowing a whistle at me.
No.
You know, if you want to yell at me and say, "Hey, don't touch the stone."
Yeah, we're probably more used to oi.
Yeah, don't fucking blow a whistle.
Hey, fuck you.
But it's good to see, you know, like this. That's the first time we'd gone to Europe as well. So it was an eye-opener for us because we'd been to America 5 times or whatever and seen the way the Yanks live.
Yeah.
To go the other way over the Indian Ocean and, you know, even to get to Doha.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Now, that was completely different for us. That was a Middle Easter, and that's a huge airport. I don't know if you've been there.
Yeah,
but
been through.
It was very big, and I remember a mate of mine, Paul Bastian, said, "Go and use the stainless steel toilets." And, you know, you think, oh, yeah, stainless steel toilets. And you get there and, you know, these doors are like 2.7, 3 metres high by a metre wide, 316 stainless steel. And you're going, that's just to get into the toilet.
Yeah.
So, you know, by the time I've gone in there, there's a guy in there working.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, you want the toilet?" And I said, yes. So he's in there scrubbing the toilet and putting paper. I said, "Don't put paper on the seat. It's only going to stick to my legs." And, you know, he said, "Oh, no worries. Just trying to make it good for you." But just to see they got that internal garden, that's that green area, and you think, man, what an airport. You know, how wonderful that you could be clean and green sitting in there. And
making it the world's best.
And then you hop in the plane again, and like you can see all the A380s and all the a lot of A350s and 777s, and you know you head off up towards Rome, over the water there, and you bypass Ukraine, and you see how black it is. It's just blacked out, you know, and you think you're not far from the zone, are you?
Yeah.
You know, and but it was good to see all that. You know, you fly over there and fly into Rome, and then. You know, we went to Sicily and we went to the Greek islands and Santorini, and you know it was good to see how the rest of the world lives because we're only 250 years old here.
Yeah, that's right. I think our next one's going to be similar country, Croatia.
Yeah, we've heard lots of good stuff there.
Yeah, so
we were close enough to it. We just couldn't put it into the 5 weeks, but.
Natalie's been there before on a cruise with her dad back in the day, but it's appealing to me. There's a lot of interest there for me. Tuna farming, a lot of farm type operations there for fish. A lot of Lincoln identities have live there.
Yep.
And have operations there as well. They'll live 6 months in Port Lincoln and then go and live 6 months in Croatia.
Wow.
That's their lifestyle, and they've been doing that for a number of years. So they've got the best of both worlds. They farm.
You'll have to get involved with that, mate.
They farm bluefin here and yellowfin there, so all tuna, all worth money.
Sounds like you'll be spending a bit more time at Port Lincoln.
Oh yeah. I love Port Lincoln. I love the fact there's always something to do. If you like fishing, you can't be satisfied. You just got to keep going all the time.
How big is the marina now? I haven't been there for over a decade at least.
Okay, well, it's an interesting scenario at the moment because they opened, was it stage 4, and it's basically landlocked. So the water comes through the bridge over the last stage they built, I think the last stage or the second last. And so that's the water ingress into the area and fills it up. But in terms of properties, I think the last I was there was only 3 or 4 houses built in the whole marina area.
Yeah, right.
Because if you've got a boat, you can't use it. You can't get it there and put it in front of your property.
Yep.
So it takes away the appeal. And I don't think there's any way they can actually remedy that either. And of course, just up the road from there is where they're now talking about putting the new desal plant.
You did touch base on that one last time.
Yeah. So that's still controversial, but I see it made the headlines again this week that they're going ahead with it.
So is it slightly elevated that gravity feeds back, is it, once they take the salt out, or they still got to pump it?
Yeah, still be pumped, yeah. The issue, of course, is where they pump in from and where they pump out from. So whatever it is, it's going to impact, like I think I said last time, on tuna farming operations somewhere, as well as seagrasses and local fish and so on. So high salinity coming back in has to have some impact.
Yeah, righto. And what's the tuna if it's too much salt? Does it?
The tuna won't be affected greatly because they're out in the passage and out in deep water these days.
Yeah.
But it's just things like sardine stocks that feed the tuna. Those sort of fisheries may be impacted. You just don't, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But,
Yeah.
They're the sort of things that come to my mind at the time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I remember when Dad did the study down at Marion Bay when we were going to do the pub down there before that one started, and he was saying about pulling the salt water out to keep the fridges cool with the clear water, and then pump, push the salt back in. And you look at the desal plant here. Have we ever used that one yet? Or?
I don't think anyone wants to really talk about it. So.
It's there for
for the emergency.
Yeah, I don't know what it costs to operate or leave it running.
No, I don't think it does get run anymore. So I see they're actually subdividing all the land around it down there to put housing in, or the old Port Stanback area.
So I assume it's got pumps in there. You'd have to run the pumps though, wouldn't you?
Well, I assume because didn't they? I'm sure they put a pipeline through into the system where they can use the generated water in some areas for some uses. So I'm sure that it had a start-up at some stage and had something that they did use the water for. So.
Reese White and I were in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I told you the story last time, but we were skiing up there for the day, and this 6'2" fit bloke from America comes in. He says, "Hey, where are you dudes from?" And we said Australia, and he said, whereabouts? And we said, Adelaide. And he goes, desal plan. And I thought, you can't make that up. And I said, what do you know about the desal plan? He said, my daddy went over there and did that for you guys. And I'm thinking, the chances of meeting this guy on a gondola.
Yeah.
And he's talking about the desal plant. I knew he wasn't making it up. Yeah, no longer, or wherever, Port Stanback or whatever it is, And I'm thinking, wow, what a small world, for that 2 minutes that we're on the gondola with you, we're talking about the desal plant.
Yeah, it's amazing how those circumstances come up.
They seem to keep coming up, don't they?
It's also amazing about, I think, people's perception of what we have here. A lot of the Americans and Canadians on board ship, when you have lunch or breakfast with them and so on, invariably the discussion about Australia would come up. And 9 times out of 10, it's too dangerous there, too dangerous.
Everything wants to eat you.
Yeah, everything wants to eat, bite you, and kill you. And they believe they're common, like you lift up your toilet seat and there's going to be a redback there. And all those things are stuck in their minds, and that's what they believe is reality. So and I suppose when they see the occasional news item showing a kangaroo jumping around the suburbs, it just reinforces their beliefs. So, I suppose back in the day, Hogs and the shrimp on the barbie probably helped, eliminate some of that, but it's back to where it was, I think, these days. So.
Even in Liverpool.
White sharks, for example.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
they've got white sharks over there as well. So.
Yeah, I think South Africa got the worst white pointers, haven't they?
Yeah, some of their
They
surf
breach
beaches.
a fair bit.
Yeah.
But even in the UK, we went over and saw my mate over there in Liverpool, and he was saying about coming down, and he said, "But I'm worried about coming down. Everything wants to fucking eat you." I said, "It's not that bad. Yes, there are redbacks. If you go out the back and turn a rock over or something that hasn't been moved for a while, you'll feel a web that's really sticky, and you'll go, there's a redback around here somewhere. Like it's a." And I said, you get to know that sort of stuff being a local. He said, but, it's not like the white pointers are coming through eating you on the main street, like if you...
It is interesting, though, about how common the redbacks can be. I think every time I do a bit of a, shuffle around of the chairs out in the patio, turn them over, there's a redback.
You'll know
every bloody time.
Yeah,
and people are actually sitting on those chairs. And I turned one over the other day, and it was a monster, absolute monster, and a big egg pack as well. So I actually sprayed one as it was trying to get away from me. I don't know why I didn't step on it, but I sprayed it, and it just dropped all the babies as I sprayed it. Yeah, they went everywhere. So I stepped all over them, but yeah, it's amazing what you find.
We've got a little pool box down near the pool there, and every time I open it up, I know they're in there because it doesn't get opened enough.
And, I know you're in there.
And I open it up, and I can see the web straight away.
Yeah.
And I'll go, you're around. And there he is, and he's got a belly like that on him with a big red stripe down his back.
Yeah.
And every time I try to kill it, it's gone for it. It knows, that time I come down that it's come to get me. And I can never kill it. I can never find it when I'm looking for it either.
Surface spray does it. They can't get away from that.
So, yeah, we might have to go down there and...
Yeah, nuke them.
Yeah.
Agent Orange.
But you do know when they're around, If you look at the black widow, like that's a fairly aggressive-looking spider. Now, I don't know of anyone that's been bitten by but when you see them, you go, oh, God, they're awful, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then Mandy's got this tub out the back that she uses when she does all her clippings and that, and throws it in there. There's huntsman sitting on there. And it's in the curl, so you can't really see it. And I saw it straight away, and it saw me, and then it was gone. It was gone before I could even crack it.
Yeah.
Because...
they're pretty ferocious looking, but they're harmless. So.
They are harmless, aren't they? But, boy, you want to smash it into... obliterate it.
Yeah.
But no, it's good living here, and you can tell a few stories to the overseas people,
Yeah, I was just down this morning after some pippies or cockles down at Goolwa.
I learned what pippies were today.
Sorry?
I learned what pippies were today from you.
Well, pippies are the new name for cockles, so it's a market issue as much as anything else. But anyway, pippies are on at the moment. The season starts, I think, the 1st of November, and the Facebook reports are they're going berserk. There's that many around, apparently, that they've increased the bag limit this year from 300 to 330 per person.
Good size?
Yeah, they've got to be 1.2, I think it is. I can't remember now. Actually, I've got the marks on my... There it is there.
All right,
That's
you
the
just mark it.
Just put them down and hold them against it. So I went down all kidded up with friends, Jody and Sue as well, and met them down there, and out we went. Curiously, we were the only ones there looking for pippies. That's always a bad sign. And then all we could find to start with were very small fingernail types, and I thought, this is not good. And so in the end, after about 3 hours collectively between the three of us, we had 170. So of our 990 bag limit, we fell well short. And I mean,
Better
that's,
third, yeah.
yeah, so I was going to get a heap of live ones. My son, my eldest lad, Dale, he loves to make up Mongoli with, fresh cockles and that. So he was on his way back from Perth, and I got back and I said, sorry, mate, I couldn't get it, because he's talking about how he was going to make it up for dinner tonight and that sort of stuff. I said, sorry. And, of course, his first retort was, you went to the wrong place. I knew you'd say that, but I went to the west rather than to the east, and he said, he should have gone there. And I said, yeah, I know all that. But anyway, that was the day,
Where'd you go, Goolwa?
Yeah, at Goolwa, down the end of Beach Road there. So, yeah, we worked really, really hard to get the ones we did get. So a lot of small stuff and not a lot of big stuff. But as I said, there's always an ominous sign when you go fishing. If there's no one else there, there's a good reason for that, because there's no
So if you go
there.
down towards the beach, you went left, and he was saying you meant to go...
We went right towards Victor instead of going to the left. Left I went last time, and they were everywhere. And I don't know why we didn't do that today. We could have had one of the cars as four-wheel drive. We could have gone down there and done the same. There's about a dozen people down that way, so whether they were doing any good, who knows, but we gave up. Then, I went, I love the pies at the Goolwa Bakery. So I pulled in there and I'm saying, I'm really looking forward to this. Got my pie and a donut and got in the car and I drove on down to Currency Creek. And there's a bit of not many people know, there's a Lions Park there. So you just pull in there and go down there. Beautiful little spot on the river there, on the creek. Toilet block, veranda and all that sort of stuff. Just a nice spot to have lunch. So I get myself all set up, and to get the pie out and take the first bite. And it's not the fucking pie they used to make.
Oh, no.
They've changed the recipe, obviously. The meat was absolutely shit.
They've changed the barbecue shapes. What's wrong with them?
So that was my biggest disappointment. I had about a quarter of the pie.
Was it really mincy, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mince had been... there's things in the mince
Gristle.
that just changed it, So that was a real...
It's probably Chinese.
A little letdown. The chocolate donut sort of helped get over it, but yeah, that was a bit of a letdown. You get yourself all worked up about something.
Sure.
All sitting there waiting for it to happen, and bang, it didn't happen.
Being on the road, you do know where the good spots are.
Yeah.
There's a servo on Lower North East Road there, just down from the Mazda store there at Lower North East Road there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one that has been in there for a few years, but they have a very good pepper pie.
Oh, yeah.
And if, you take off early and you're looking to get something in your belly before work on the way down, you can go in there and you get a bit of orange cake or something as well, and a nice coffee. Yeah. Breakfast of champions.
Healthy stuff.
But the pie and the pasties there are just to die for.
Yeah.
Like, on the way down, everything's working to get to this pasty, and all this pepper steak pie. And
I remember back in the day when you talk to Natalie before you come home. We're having this for tea, and you think, oh, beauty. Drive all the way home, said, I've changed my mind. And you got yourself all worked up. And what do you mean you've changed your mind? What am I going to do? And they were funny days. She said, what did she used to say? Get used to it. I think that was the words I got.
It sounds about generic, doesn't it? Goes across the world that way.
I'll tell you what, we didn't starve on the ship, nor did the Americans.
The Americans do eat a lot of food.
Oh, God.
And big portions of food, Least we sort of eat slightly bigger than our stomach. They eat two stomachs worth.
The comedian on board was a Negro, American, and he took the piss out of everything, being black and being American. And there's one point in his delivery saying, "I gotta say this, but food, fuck, can you people put food away? He said, it's not going to go. There's going to be food there every day. You don't have to eat it all in day one." He said, I don't know how many times I've sat there and see the same people go up and fill their plate up 3 and 4 times. And that was about right. They eat a lot of food. A lot of shit food too.
Yeah, fuck, all fried shit.
Yeah.
But it is an endless stream, isn't it, of food, though, on the boat. I always used to say the beauty of the cruises is that the wives don't have to worry about what's for tea tonight.
And we don't have to make a decision about it either.
Because it fucks us off just as much as the question's coming at 5 to 6. What are we doing for tea tonight?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How many times a week do you do that? You know, like it is amazing, especially living with a shift worker because
Yeah.
you know, there's always a safety net on Thursday night that we can go down and get hot chips down here from the
Fish and chip shop.
yeah, chips and gravy, and that sort of appeases the week, you know.
Yeah.
But the cruises are good for food and beverage as well. If you got the beverage package, and
Yeah.
you know, you don't have to get your wallet out at all. You know, you sort of got a free range for the week, and
Now, there was one difference this time. You know, we normally, we've been on cruises, always participate in the bingo, you know, every day.
how ridiculously dear was that?
Well, in this case, it was shocking.
It was like $80 for a book.
Yeah, well, it was $50 a game
Might
for
have been,
one. For
yeah.
one. So if you want a book of 3, I think it cost you $130.
And it took
So-
took all the joy out.
So
Didn't it?
guess what? They didn't use the theatre. They used one of the bar areas, and they only got about 50 people playing. That's ridiculous.
Keep it
pricing.
affordable, and
Yeah,
let
Let people
the
have fun.
let the prizes be $1,000,
Yeah, yeah.
not 25,000.
Yeah, one of the prizes was a cruise, and the jackpot I think got to about 3,000 or 4,000. But so what? You know, you've only 50
Used
people
to
playing.
buy a card or
Yeah, that's it,
5
yeah.
games, and it used to cost you $30 or
Yeah.
whatever, and you'd say no worries at all.
Yeah. I found that very disappointing. The casino was good, but of course they can only operate the casino when they're in international waters, so it wasn't open a lot. But when it was open, it was in full swing. But you know what? You could smoke in there. So if you're a person like me, I can't stand the smell of smoke. So if you go in there, you're there for 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it. Because people in there just chain smoke. You know, sit there, put money in, chain smoke, put money in, chain smoke. It's just monotonous. But anyway, I think I won about $300 all up there.
Did you? I don't reckon we even had a bet.
Yeah, no, I went there a couple of times, but I set my limit of $20 and half an hour. What I had left after half an hour, I walked out with it. So.
Yeah. Another thing, it was good to see. You know, you'd have a favourite bar somewhere where you could just sit there and listen to music. If it's acoustic, it's fantastic, isn't it?
That's what we had. Yeah.
I
Had a cigar bar.
Yep.
You can't smoke cigars in there. You got plenty of cigars there, but can't smoke them there. But it was a nice little bar.
We went and saw the Beatles there on the boat.
So you must have the same sort of cruise package because we had the Beatles on ours as well.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So-
Filipinos?
Uh,
Ours was a Filipino couple that did a couple
no,
of Beatles nights.
there were the 4 guys with their
Okay,
wigs
yeah,
on,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they did have the room, and I forget what the room's called now in Liverpool,
Yeah.
where they used to play, but they had the same mock up in there, and
Yeah.
we went in there, and you'd have Americans just come in late, and they wanted to stand in the way, and you used to think, oh my God, you know, just didn't see anybody else.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
what am I in the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially if you've been there
Yeah.
90 minutes before. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I was at when I was at that concert last week. Every time I went to take a photo or a video, there's this turkey in front of me. It was about 6'5". Has this big hat on, big Akuba hat on. Every time I took a photo, you had to stand up, you know, and like you complete block out. Yeah, they just frustrate you. They don't think about anyone else but themselves, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah.
no, it was good. I think looking at this one just gone, because we, as I said, hadn't been to Europe to see Paris. I didn't mind Paris. Yeah, there was a lot of people there,
Yeah.
but it was good to, you know, there was a couple of spots there down. What's the river called? The Seine.
Same, yeah.
Same. And to go down where James Bond was filmed there, or
yeah.
Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
or whatever it was there.
Yeah.
And I said to Mandy, I reckon we're right in that same spot. So when we got back to Adelaide, I got that part of the movie and we were exactly, and the railway station's just there to the
Oh,
right,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I said, I'm sure this is where it was filmed, and it was, you know, it was exactly the same spot. So that was good to see that. London was busy. Yeah, there's so many cultures in London at the moment. I understand why there's so much unrest, because
Yeah.
there's not many British there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all India, and it's all, now you got,
Don't worry, mate. We're right behind them. 45% of Australian citizens these days weren't born in this country.
so it's sort of making the waters muddy, isn't it? It's, for your culture, because
Well, it's
you
particularly
used
when,
to say in Rome, do as the Romans do.
well, if you're not born in the country, what allegiances do you have to, for example, the memories we have of our servicemen and women who've died for the country? You've got
Zero.
zero, exactly.
You were on the other side, probably.
Yeah. So, as I keep saying, we're already losing Christmas Day. We've lost Australia Day. What's next? Anzac Day? I don't think so at the moment, because there's enough Aussies and non-Aussies
There'll
who
be a tip point
support it.
somewhere.
But there's got to be.
Won't be far off.
No, there's got to be. So I was just going to go back to Charles de Gaulle Airport. I have a memory, but not a good one. I just remember I had to, my mate dropped me off, and
Where is it? Where is it?
Charles de Gaulle, Paris.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Charles de Gaulle Airport.
Yep.
We dropped off, and he was heading back to Australia on a flight, and I was catching a train across to Lyon and across the Channel. And walking down the main area in the airport towards the train station, and I just noticed in front of me there was a brown stuff, I sort of walked past it and smelled it. It was shit. There was a woman walking in front, a fair way down, in she had the full headgear on and the turban and all that sort of stuff. As she was walking along, she was stopping, squatting and shitting.
Yeah.
And she did this about half a dozen times. And people were walking straight through it. It was terrible. One of those memories I'll never get out. You can't unsee that sort of shit. But yeah, people like that I just don't understand at all.
I did get told years ago that Paris was in places fairly average, where you've got the slots in the floor and you just shit in that. And you think, like Europe to me was that you needed €1 to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
So every day you had to
That's
have
what I remember.
3 or 4 euros in your pocket, because you knew at some stage after even 6 hours you'd want to piss. And generally at the time where you're not anywhere close to a toilet or
It was
whatever.
like that in Germany as well. You pull over the side of the road to a toilet and you've got to have bloody change, and normally was a woman or someone sitting in there taking the money off you.
Yeah, that's right.
Go for it.
You think how much money they make for the toilet. You've got all this urban wear that you're pissing in, and you think the money's not going into updating the toilet.
Yeah. You
But-
go home at the end of the day and say, "Oh, how'd you go on the job today?" "Oh, yeah, not too bad. 35 guys had a piss, 3 paid. Yeah. Job satisfaction, fucking good."
I remember this lady in Santorini, and she was American. She said, I need a pee, and the guy said, well, euro. And she said, I've only got American dollars. And he goes, oh. And I'm standing there, and like, man, he just got in for a whiz, and she starts counting quarters out. Now, he can't claim that, the 4 quarters, and then he'd have to go and exchange it, you know what I mean? So he said, no. I said, oh, for fuck's sake. And I just gave her €1, and I said, here's the fucking euro for the lady. I said, I'm going for a fucking piss as well, because I thought, man, he'd pay for it. I'm just going to go in as well.
Yeah.
So once I paid for her, I went in, and he still hit me up for $1 when I got out as well. I thought, you fucking tight ass. It's urban wear. Look at it.
Can you imagine introducing something like that in Australia? Pay for your piss?
That's where people would start pissing and shit on the floor. I said, in Australia, we don't pay for a whiz. That's no way.
No, exactly.
You think how backward that is?
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
You go anywhere out of Adelaide, every country town has got a toilet. It's got a beautiful toilet.
Yeah. I can tell you, I've been to just about every fucking one of them.
And you think, God, you go overseas, especially in Europe, and everywhere you go, you got to pay €1. That's nearly $2 a piss. You think.
That's what I said to my mate. I said, the day I have to start paying for a piss is beyond. I think we ended up in a place called Remagen in
Germany.
No, Holland, Netherlands, wasn't it? Remagen or Belgium? Remember the Bridge Too Far movies?
I do.
Yeah, this was Remagen. We stopped at a cafe overlooking the bridge, and that was the only place where we got a free piss. We had to go in and buy a coffee, and let us use their toilet. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Lake Como just in this last trip there, and Manny needed a whiz there. And I said, look, for fuck's sake, I'll just buy a coffee. I said, I haven't had a coffee. I'll go and buy a coffee. And she said, oh, you better sit fucking close to the building, otherwise you'll pay more for your coffee. And I'm going, what? She said, oh, just sit up there. You know, I don't want to have to fucking pay for toilets. And I'm thinking, oh, for fuck's sake. You know, and it had killed the moment in the end. I didn't enjoy the coffee, and I thought, you know, fucking, you know, I hope you piss for 3 hours, you know, like it had gone.
Yeah.
But I thought, man, Australians wouldn't deal with that over here.
No.
You know, if you need a fucking piss, you don't have to buy a Balfour's fucking pie to go for a piss.
At the end of the day, you pull over the side of the road and fucking piss there.
Yeah, that's right. No, we've all done that on South Road, haven't we? You know, we used to have the truck there, and we'd have a few beers coming back from Victor Harbour, you know, and you'd get to about Mile Land there, and by that stage you're necking, and you know you'd open the door up and just try to put a little bit into the curb there to get rid of the urge.
I used to always try and introduce a degree of excitement into having a piss. So if I was out in the country somewhere, I'd stop. I'd look behind, look in front, stop right in the middle of the road, and just get out the driver's seat, piss in the middle of the road before any other cars came along. And usually I was okay, but every now and then a car would fucking come out of nowhere. You had to fucking hold it
Push harder.
back in, yeah. And always drive away that satisfaction, looking back at that little pile in the middle of the road was yours. Yeah. Things you do.
Yeah, well, you might be all right in Paratuna, but you'd probably get picked up by a big bird. They got big birds up there on the road, haven't they? Where you kill it, we grill it. They got some big birds. You think it's a man standing in the road as you're driving towards it, and you're looking around, you're going, my God. You know, by the time you get there, this bird's sort of, it's almost prehistoric. It's that
What are you
big.
talking about, the eagles? Or the eagles?
Yeah, that'd be eagles probably.
Yeah.
Not the land ones.
No,
you
the
know.
wedge-tails. Yeah, they're big.
But they're big birds, you know, like even these days they're looking for whatever's killed on the road.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
that's
an unfortunate problem of not being enough feed around for them in the wild.
yeah. Well, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think at some stage we got the caravan there. We'll probably head off at some stage in the next decade. I'd say now that we'll go.
Decade.
The next decade won't be the next couple of years, but this one here was a 20-year project here. I think we bought here in 2008, so we're starting to get into that 20 years now. So
Yeah, you're a year before us. We're in 2009.
moved over here. Where were you before that?
We built down at Pine Lakes, Parafield Gardens.
Okay, yeah.
But it was one of those things that was just 10 minutes and everywhere. So we wanted to get up here because the kids were going to St Agnes School, the in-laws are at Vista, friends are all in this area. So we sold down there and moved in with the in-laws at Vista for a while we searched around, and then finally picked this place up. Spent a fair bit on it since. The interesting sidebar to it is that next door to us, there's a couple there in their 80s, 82 and 81. Tony, they've been great neighbours over the years. You know, they keep themselves family oriented and all that sort of stuff. Dutch by heritage. And a few weeks ago, in fact 3 months ago now, we came home one Tuesday night. There's an ambulance. There's people everywhere out the front of our place, and poor old Tony's laying on the footpath. And as it turns out, I used to put his bins out for him. This particular night, he's decided to top the bin up with something inside. Instead of letting me know, he's gone down the driveway, put it in the bin, and then as he went to turn, he's fallen. And he's fallen on his hip.
I've broken his hip.
So Margaret, his wife, who suffers from dementia, she realised after a while he hadn't come back in, so she went over to our place, knocked on all our doors and stuff. And of course, we're not home. Then went back, cut across the middle of the place, didn't go down to the street level, crossed to the other neighbours, no one home there as well, came back, and then another guy down the road a bit saw her running around, came over, got the story, went inside with her and said, well, maybe he's inside somewhere, and started looking for her. In the meantime, a woman across the road, she's just had a child, she was out there, and all of a sudden she heard someone say, that's a nice child, nice baby. And she's looking around, couldn't see where. It's dark by now. This is 6:30 this started. It's now 8:30, 7:30, 8:30. And there's Tony laying on the footpath. No pain, but can't move. So get an ambulance. The ambulance took some time to get there. And got him to hospital. Yeah, he'd actually smashed the ball joint in his hip going down. And so they put a new hip in next morning.
Oh, my God.
The unfortunate part for him was that the operation went okay, but the rehabilitation didn't work. So he still to this day can't walk. So he's had to go straight into nursing home. Meantime, Margaret, his wife, she went to stay with one of the daughters. That lasted 2 days. Took her back to the house, and then she had a breakdown. So she was hospitalised and also in the nursing home. So we both left by ambulance, not of their own accord, obviously, have never been able to return to the family home. Family home went on the market 2 weeks ago, was sold overnight. Haven't got a price for it yet, but they're looking for $7 to $750. And
Was that directly across from you?
no, directly alongside.
Okay.
Yeah, in Joyce Street. So, yeah, it's just like that. Your life changes dramatically. So they're basically now in a nursing home forever, never to see the family home, which they've lived in for many, many years. Never going to see it again. And of course, the kids have had to sell it to pay for the cost of the nursing home.
Which is very expensive, as we all know, don't we?
Well, I went through the same with my parents about 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's fairly. It's not a nice thing to go through, is it?
No. I mean, for them, the shock being is that not coming home after having all that time, building the house up to what it was. I mean, for old Tony, he's 82, and I remember he used to have a fishing boat, a really, really good boat, about 23 foot, in his driveway, and he used to love going fishing, and he struggled to get the kids to go with him anymore. And he said, look, this is the old circumstance I've always been told. The best boat to have is someone else's. And he said, that's how I feel. So he said, fuck them, I'm selling the boat. So he sold the boat. So he never went fishing again either. So circumstances, it points out all the time how quick life can change due to circumstances. And if you're not equipped to use that, as I said to Nat, if something happened to me and I'm going to nursing home, the day as we know it would change so just overnight. And it's not just us, it's anybody who's getting into our age bracket. So those are the things you've got to plan for, whether you like it or not.
No, that's right. They're all coming for all of us, so no one's exempt from that, aren't they?
No.
I've got a mate, old baseball mate now that's in a bit of trouble, old Roger Prime. It's gone to his liver now. He has never been a big drinker, and he's had a fairly difficult sort of life all the way through, but been one of those tough guys that just kept going and going and going. And
well, I mean, I've said
love you, Roger.
Yeah, I've said to you before that my view is once you get to 70, it's all about maintenance. Making sure you have all the tests you need to have done.
Sure.
Follow up. Make sure if you need medication, you take the medications. I went for my bloods the other day, and sugar-wise, because I got type 2 diabetes, sugar-wise 6.8, pretty good, and it's been like that for some time, but that's all due to medication. But for the first time, the protein leakage from my kidney was showing an increase. So now for the first time I'm on blood pressure tablets, because that to help with the kidneys, as does one of the diabetic treatments as well. So that's something I've just got to make sure we monitor in the tests we do, and make sure it slows, stops, or whatever. Otherwise, I'm going to have problems with kidneys in a fewer years than I really want them to be. So
Sure.
And I don't think that's through drinking. It's just what kidneys do, and diabetes does do damage to your kidneys. So that's, as I said, one thing you just got to keep an eye on all the time. But I've got to say, the blood pressure tablets, I'd never had them before. My blood pressure was all over the shop when the doctor was trying to take it, and the best reading wasn't a good reading. But I started taking them that day. The next day, and ever since, I test 3, 4, 5 times a day. She wants to see what trends there are. Now it's perfect. It's been in this perfect scope now for must be 2 weeks now. So it's amazing what meds can do, regardless of whatever side effects there are. I mean, one of the side effects was sleepiness, and I must admit, I don't mind having the afternoon nap every now and again.
The siesta.
Especially when Nat's not home.
Yeah.
But the naps now, they've gone from a 10 to 20 minute quick nap to a 2 hour solid sleep.
You need to get those darts going again. You might have to move to Port Lincoln just to keep your darts up, I think.
Now, that's what we do. And when Reese does come over, we sort of thrash the dartboard, but we don't get much of a chance other than that. Go to a friend's place every now and then and play there. We got Normanville coming up, so that'll be 7 days straight of darts. So that'll be good.
It does. I think this is the first time too, like with the kids gone for so long now, like they've gone, you know, they're adults now, and you know that adjustment, I suppose, for me, that they've always been there.
Yeah.
You know, they might be an arm length away from you, but they're gone now, and you think, you know, it's sad they've still got their bedrooms here that they never sort of finish with.
Well, that's one thing I did do. When they moved out, I just stripped their bedrooms totally.
See you later.
And bagged everything up and said, when you move in your own place, this is coming. It's coming. Don't you worry about that. But, you know, I've got the same, we have the same discussion and question all the time. And you and Mandy probably do the same. When is it the time to downsize? You're not going to be able to fully maintain something of this size for the rest of your life.
If
I struggle with
Sure.
what we've got now, you know. And
This is nearly half an acre here.
yeah, well, this is 990 as well, and it's a lot of maintenance. And you know, I'm one of these ones that I can't not have it maintained. You know, I could not let the lawns go, you know, more than the time they need to be mowed. So you know, we've started talking about it. You know, what does downsizing mean? Of course, the Port Lincoln question has come up, but you know, and that's pretty close to Talia. So Talia wouldn't be in Port Lincoln, but Reese would be. So that's an issue. We've always talked about something out on the parade, something smaller on the parade, but that would mean compromising. The fact is that would not have then a nest to come home to if there was a need, for example. Who knows what interest rates are going to do? Who knows what cost of living is going to do? You know, it could put that pressure right on.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a funny world right now.
Yeah.
I know it's not war, touch wood, but it's still a funny world. It's, you know, do we cut and develop this thing, or, you know, to me, I would love to on-sell this to an Australian family that can enjoy the same thing we've enjoyed.
Yeah.
I'll take you out the back before you go later. We've got a whole 1,000 square metres out the back nearly.
Yeah.
So, you know, with the tennis court here, and you can see how much leaves were here just before me blowing. You know, it's incredible. And this time of year now, I'll blow 3, 4, 5 times a week, and it will look dirty. And you think, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the trees out the front, they'll drop a limb every 3 months. So there's no point fixing the fence up yet, because it's only going to get destroyed until that drops enough limbs.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't taken the power cables out. There's 35,000 amps up the top there. It's missed it every time. I don't know how, but
I mean, you can also see why people, you know, end up renting rooms out in their houses. You know, I think it's about
which you could do. We could.
Student accommodation these days will pull you $770 a week per student.
Yeah, right.
Now, when we bought our house, it was set up to have 2 international students. The bedrooms are like they're massive rooms, the two end bedrooms, and they're self-contained. They've got their own toilet and bathroom. They could easily be rent out, and $770, that's $1,500 a week, and that's huge, you know, in terms of the economy.
Sure is.
But you know, do we compromise our own privacy, you know, for that? No, we're not in that mode, and we always want something there when the kids come home from Lincoln, or want to come over and have a night with a meal and stay on and stuff like that. So
it still is that home, isn't it?
It's a home
for
It's the Aussie
everybody
home.
to come back
It's the
to.
Aussie home.
And like, if you know, I always say to Mandy all the time, you know, I wouldn't mind a high rise in the city,
Yeah.
but you don't get this.
No.
So you're not living. Okay, you might have a gym in there, and you might have close to a restaurant. You don't get this.
Yeah.
And I'm not going back to this.
Yeah.
But when you got the folks over, or, you know, the kids over or whatever, you know, I want to hear about the Andys. I want to get another podcast with Andy on his own without Caitlin's daughter sitting alongside of him.
Yeah.
And find out the real nitty-gritty shit.
Yeah.
The Amazon, you know?
Yeah. My brother-in-law's got an apartment in Highmarsh Square right next to the pub there in the corner. What colour it is?
Yeah.
And it's good to go in there and stay for a night if you've got something on in the city. You know, it's a first floor. It overlooks the whole square. There's a pub. The Griffin's Head's on the corner. So all that sort of stuff is really good. But you couldn't live there. it's got access to a gym, access to the restaurant, that sort of stuff. But you couldn't live there. You know, just we're not ready for that style of living. That's why we said Norwood. Norwood, you've got, you know, a lot of places where you can go and eat and drink and all that sort of stuff. It's sort of semi, you know.
If they had the baseball there, mate, I would say it'd be a winner for sure. But I know what you're saying there. When Matt, the older brother, lived there on one of the streets just behind the pub there, we used to go to the Bath Hotel there all the time. Every Friday night, not every Friday, we'd go down there quite a bit, and it's a great place. It's so close to the city. It's so close to here. It wasn't far to get home.
Of course, it's good for that side of the family because they're all fucking Norwood barrackers.
Yes, it's good being a Sturt barracker. But it's a different world. It's, you know, and we've got to adjust as well. Like, and I don't think I've worked it out yet.
No. Well, I look. If you ask me when's the time, I have no idea. When's
Too
the
young now. Still too young.
When's the time to start thinking about it? No. You know, we really need to get over. You know, Natalie's getting to an age where she can access at least one of her super funds, and then she's got to get to the next age to access the second one. Then we'll have, you know, all the super coming in, and that'll be, you know, more than we need to live. But depending on the lifestyle we want as well. So I mean, we don't spend a lot of time at home, as you probably know. So it's always there's always something happening, always on the go.
Well, I think now there's been a big move here as well that, you know, Mandy's lost her mum. I've lost my mum and dad as well.
Yeah.
They're all gone now. And, you know, we've lost a couple of really good close friends in the last few years. And the immediate thought now is that it is time just to go away. Now, this Europe trip, to do the island trip with Caitlin and Andy was to die for. You know, it was so good.
That's special. That is special.
You know, to drink Guinness in Ireland, you know, in Dublin, and you know, even
he looked like a bit of a drinker.
Even to go to the pubs in Belfast, you know, like, you know, we did go to a couple of rough pubs in Belfast.
Yeah,
it wasn't like was he
a bigger drinker than you?
He's probably a better drinker than me. I don't know. I can't drink.
Every photo I saw, you both had drinks in your hand.
I can't drink Guinness though.
Oh no, I can't either.
It's too.
No. No.
It hasn't got enough bite in it.
Yeah, I know.
It's like drinking
piss.
Yeah. But you know, the Australian draft or lager wants to rip your tonsils out. You know, that's the sort of beer. You know, it's amazing. Like I started drinking Heineken for a while.
Oh, yeah.
You could buy the 22-ounce beers here.
Yeah.
But then you found yourself drinking more 22 ounces instead of stopping in between. And, you know, you'd find yourself passing out all the time because you were too drunk. But
I was the same with these, you know, the Johnny Walker and Cokes.
Yep.
And then they threw another temptation, because this is the standard. You've now got one with a higher alcohol concentrate.
And you don't need
Costs you a little bit more, but, you know, two of them takes the place of 6 of these. So I'm not sure what's the best. Whether you do it by economy or by sensibility.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've worked that out either. You know, I'm. You know, I can go days without it, but when I'm on it, I seem to stay on it to the end. You know, I think that come from my mum actually, not my dad. But he drank a lot of scotch.
Yeah.
You know, he.
I just enjoy scotch. It's a drink I enjoy drinking. So it's not like I can drink anything, but I just enjoy scotch. Beer, I don't like that bloated feeling after a dozen beer.
Yeah.
Just don't enjoy that at all. So the only problem with this, of course, with diabetes, sugar levels are fucking through the roof.
The cola's probably the worst part, not so much the whiskey, but no, it was good to do the that Bushmills whiskey tour to see. You know, that's 418 years old, and to think they were still making whiskey 150 years before they found this joint.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it was good to see it. I really enjoyed this trip. This one's been a bit of a life changer for me in regards to just the time of life, and also to see how insignificant we are really in the big world. I think one thing I did learn out of the trip: if you say 2,000 years AD, that's only 2,000. That's only 100 years by 20. It's not much.
No.
Now, if you're saying that's when the Bible was written back then or thereabouts,
The what?
that's not very, yeah, for sure. I'll get hit by lightning with blue sky. But that's not that long ago. 100 years goes like that.
People were writing books before then.
There you go. So if you say
The Bible's just a book.
so at some stage there, here we go, AD, we're not that far down the road, are we?
No.
And you have a look in the last, I suppose, since World War II, since the end of World War II, I'm sure the graph's gone like that now.
Yeah.
But, they were building pyramids before that. How did they do that?
Yeah. I mean,
With the accuracy.
I was even sitting back thinking the other day. I was watching a show on History Channel about Nazi hunters, what they did after the war to track down some of the worst offendings.
Argentina?
Yeah, mainly Argentina.
That's where Caitlin and Reese were the other day.
Adolf Eichmann and Klaus Barbie and so on. But, I was born in 52. That was 7 years after the end of the war. And all this stuff was still going on into the 60s. A lot of this stuff hadn't been resolved. And the decisions they made about allowing many of those criminals that were in the concentration camp system for the Nazis were allowed to live normal lives, because they had to make a decision as to who's going to take responsibility. What level of responsibility went down to a guard on the day, rather than the person who actually set the concentration camp or ran the concentration camps. So it's difficult to actually think back as to that's what the world was at when you're born, but have we come further? I remember at a young life having a very idyllic view of we could never ever let something like the Holocaust happen in this world, surely in our time. I reckon we've seen it a dozen times. Idi Amin, the killing fields of, in Asia. There's numerous of them already where it's happened, where people in their teens, tons of thousands have been murdered, basically. For what? Political reasons. I think in my time, in 72 years, I don't think we've come that far, in terms of, resolving all that sort of stuff. We've still got wars.
I've said to you a dozen times probably tonight, why kill the butterflies? Get the two heads of state and stand out there with one bullet and a 6-gun revolver, go out and pull the trigger.
Yep.
Stop killing all the people.
Yeah.
All the young boys and girls.
Yep. But too much hangs on economies. Too much hangs on the investment people have in arms, fighting. That won't change. So America's economy is built around the arms race. So
this one's going to be.
We're getting pretty somber here.
This one's going to be really interesting to see what Trump brings to the party now. I know last time I finished with the UFOs with you, and you said, "Where's the proof?" And I heard that again today, and I just laughed again with it today.
I'm a regulator. It's based on fact, not fiction.
And that's what I was thinking today. I can hear Brian saying to me, "Show me the proof,"
Yeah.
But I just think it's so funny that it's now mainstream media at the moment. It's the presidential thing's finished, and now we're hitting these UFOs. Like there's now had the second one.
Yeah.
And there's people under oath swearing. Where's the goodies?
Yeah.
As George Knapp says, the closer you get to the goodies, the harder they push you away.
I think if one thing the Trump process has shown the world is that you can have our media, like Fox, capture the world in support of Trump. I know on the ship we had 4 news services. The Fox was 24/7 Trump. 24/7. You could turn that TV on any time of the day or night, and there was something on there positive about Trump. Just incredible.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And that's the power of the media in this world today. They show us what we want to see.
I reckon so.
And the more we access things like Facebook, the more they know what we want to see.
Brian, what I did learn with this machine last time, I found a pause button.
Did you?
So I'm going to hit the pause button, go for a bit.
You want me to pause this?
No, keep it going.
What? Why do you have a piss?
Yeah, keep it going. I'll only be a second. Won't be long.
Oh,
Welcome back, Brian. It was a good piss stop. Even the pros do it. So
yeah. Why didn't you have that pause button last time?
I wish I'd only learnt that I had a pause button for sure. Hey, I was on a work site today, listening to our podcast last time to try to give me some idea of where we're going with the one today, and
I reckon we spent an hour and 20 talking about nothing in particular.
yeah, but it was fantastic to hear the stories about the helicopters, and when the emergency lights come on, it's not like a plane.
It wasn't funny at the time.
It's not like a plane that can glide.
No.
This thing wants to fall out of the air. But have you got any other stories of airborne material?
Not of the risk to life. I think we chased most of them last time. I was still having nightmares weeks after.
You drank a lot of beer after the event. I know that much.
Yeah, that's right. We did back in Port Lincoln. There's one that I always remember. It's a good sidebar story to the helicopter. It was a game with my my good mate pilot Trevor Pelling, that one that passed away many years ago. We'd always, every time we used to fly anywhere, we'd always come over these big schools of fish everywhere. We'd think, fuck, if we had a fishing rod, we can go and do some fishing, And this one trip, we went to Sejuna, another patrol, and we did our job. And we're heading home, and there was this massive school, and Trevor said, we're putting down, I've actually got a rod in the boot. I said, you didn't. So anyway.
Is that in the chopper?
Yeah. It's got one of those fold-up rods in the boot.
Telescopic.
So, telescopic, that's it. So we put down a place called Decrease Bay, just the other side of this side of Sejuna, and there's this massive school of fish. It's just massive, and immediate thought was salmon. Didn't have long to have a look. We just put down. He gets the gear out and starts casting, and nothing's happening. Nothing's being caught. The school of fish are actually coming toward us. We're in now knee-deep water, and these fish are coming towards us, and all of a sudden they're all around us. They were bloody sardines. They weren't salmon at all. They're only a few inches long, and there were just millions of them. So we thought we gave up then. So we're not fishermen. They're not doing this again. So that moved us on. But
you didn't have a hook small enough to get the salmon, did you?
No. And another story I always remember was he was the helicopter pilot that liked to wee in places, was it? Yeah, that's him. That's the one. Yeah,
bless his heart. I was laughing so hard today. Yeah. That was so funny.
There was another one where we were at Perry Airport one day. So Perry Airport, I don't know whether many people have been there, but there's a little museum there, which is quite interesting just to have a look in there. So Port Perry Airport is quite large for country airport standards, but back in the day in World War II, it was a massive Air Force base. So it's the old usual story, Adelaide south of anywhere. So this is where they trained Wellington bomber pilots that went on to serve in London and so on.
Yeah, righto.
And they had the trainers they had in those days were called Avro Nansons. And so there are many photos there of this airfield just loaded with hundreds of aircraft. And there were big barracks and crews. All this is all gone now. Just the photos are left. So it's just an interesting, little sidebar that of the history behind the Port Perry Airport. And when we actually fly around the place, we often came across craters in the mangrove areas. That's where trainers went down over the years.
Yeah, right.
Many pilots lost their lives just in training in that area. But anyway, this particular morning, we had a pilot was Bob Tomo Thompson. Tomo was a lovely guy, ex-Vietnam vet. So he used to fly Hueys in the Vietnam War. And so he was always on the edge of, and the way he flew. Yeah, he loved it. That's what he'd do in the mic. And before I forget, there was an island in the middle of Spencer Gulf, just north of Spilsby Island, where the terrain was something like you come towards it, there's a bit of a hilly structure, and you go over the top and there's a valley, and he'd always sit there and say, can I? Can I? And that's what he'd do. He'd go roaring into the base of this cliff. He'd go up almost vertical and over the top, and he'd
Love it.
yeah, Bob Tomo. Anyway, this day,
good's that?
Tomo's the pilot. And the local guys at Perry decided the local office girl in Perry wanted to have a flight, so we thought the normal thing is we'd take them up, do a 5-minute spin, then drop them down before we go and do our work. So this particular day, Alan, the old boy, was in the next to the pilot. Next to me was Richard, and I was in the back with myself, and the office girl sitting behind the pilot. So up we go, went through all the usual safety drills. That sort of,
Prepare for landing.
This is 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's pretty cool. And in those days, we didn't actually park at the airport. We actually parked on a farm, so that people didn't know we were even in the area. So we'd park in a farm, trot foot into a motel somewhere in Perry, and then go back first light to do the netting run down the coast towards Wallaroo. And so this particular day, up we go, and I just saw at the corner of my eye, the woman sitting next to me. She's sort of sitting there with a hand over her mouth, and I thought that's not a good sign, not a good sign. And everyone, Tomo comes on, is everyone okay? And she didn't say a boo. Next minute, she's projectile spew, and because her hand's not over her mouth, it was coming out through the gaps in her hair, and it got Tomo on the back of his bald head underneath his his earphones. So he didn't have a helmet in those days, and he said, that fucking better not be spew. So we put down straight away and had to get her out and clean the whole thing up and that, but she didn't tell us she was subject to air sickness. So that's our start of our day. Anyway, we went on and got down to a place called Tikara. Tikara is north of Wallaroo, but it's like a fishing area, a few shacks, that sort of stuff. Wild man country. And we came in low, and there was a guy. First thing we saw was a number of boats in the area, all on moorings, so they're not out at sea, they're on moorings. And there's a guy dealing with snapper on one boat, and then we saw another boat dealing with a snapper. And old Alan was with me. He said, put down, quickly, get Richard here with a boat. And I'm saying, well, what's going on? And what it was in those days, you could have a marine scale, like a commercial license for taking snapper, for example, and whiting and so on. And you could have a tender boat. You could have a second boat with the same number on it. So here we had the license number, say M24 and M24-1.
Bring it in, Marty.
M24-1, and they...
Thanks, Dale.
Hey, Mandy.
Andy, how are you? I didn't know if you're on it.
Get on the camera, Whitey. Say hello.
So say M24 and M24-1, and there's one guy on each boat, and they've got snapper on each boat. So one thing you can't do is fish from the both boats at the same time. And clearly they had been. Now, I wasn't totally aware of this at the time. Our land backup turned up, threw the tinny in the water, jumped on the tinny, pulled alongside the first boat, and Alan says to me, jump on that one and start riding him up. So I thought, oh, okay. And I'll go to the other one. So I go jumping on these boats. So these are the old tinker boats that the fishermen used to use a lot, wood boats. And there's this old bloke, Ron Manners, lovely guy, just the gentleman of the sea, well-known fishing family in the area. He's up sitting under the thing with the basically legs either side of the sideboard and all the snapper, and he's just doing all the gutting of the snapper. So I jump on the boat, and I've lost my balance totally, and I've fallen flat on my face and slid down this board because it's
all into
the
the
fish
guts.
line,
Oh,
the fish
no.
line, and my face has ended up in his crutch.
Oh.
In his crutch, embedded in his crutch.
Neil Hammond, take that one on, mate, I tell you.
And I was going, oh my God. And of course my uniform's just covered in fish slime. And so I got up, and it took me ages to recover, and try and sit there and
How
do an
old were
interview.
you then?
Oh, probably
30?
40.
Okay.
No, late 30s.
So you'd been
40s.
around a little bit.
Yeah. But I've never forgotten it, because the look on his face, he said something like, strange way to meet a person, or something like that, quite odd for
How
a
good.
country guy. But anyway, we ended up prosecuting the both of them. They'd both been out fishing on the two different boats that night, which they shouldn't have been doing. Now, we'd never, ever have apprehended that sort of offence if it hadn't been for helicopter. because a land-based patrol or at sea patrol wouldn't have seen both
Yeah,
boats out there. So
Yeah.
that was the value of using a chopper.
Yeah, you said last time that the choppers were worth. I know the budget cut them back. I think
Yeah.
you had a budget of
250.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
which was a lot in those days, budget-wise. So
but look what it did.
Yeah.
It achieved pretty good
yeah,
stuff. Didn't it?
250 in those days is probably equivalent of 5 or 6 officers. So that's how the pen pushers looked at that sort of stuff at the time.
Yeah. Look, it's like anything. It's got to justify itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If it's losing money or it's not
Yeah.
doing what the task is, then
The other one I didn't mention last time was my Rex Hunt experience.
the real.
The real Rex, yeah.
All right.
It's
I'll just let you know what this.
yeah, we got
Mandy's
a parcel here.
Mandy's just dropped a parcel off, so I've been waiting for this to come in during the week. So when Brian was here, Brian was in the book, so I got a book done for the first lots of podcasts that we've done here, and I was waiting for it during the week so I could.
The camera should be on Ash.
Brian
You've got
could-
no fucking idea of how to open it.
So it's just arrived. I'll probably drop it on the ground the way I'm going. There we go.
It's like a honeymooner in the bedroom.
It's
The White Room.
the White Roo Company.
Yeah, very good. There's the calendar, is it?
Oh, this one's come before the other one. This isn't even the one that I was thinking of.
No.
All right, well, let's fuck that up even better. The one that I've got the one that I ordered last, and I haven't got the one I want.
This is probably where the edit comes in later.
Unless there's 2 in there, I don't think there is. But anyway, cut a long story short, I've got a catalogue coming of all the podcasts, and Brian was on there.
Oh, there you
I've
go.
got the one that I wasn't wanting, and of course, anyway,
Yeah,
keep going with your
back
story.
to Rexy. This particular day...
Yibbity yibbida.
Yibbity. So back in the day, and I've got to say we had a relationship with Rex because we got him over to Adelaide a couple of times for promotion of recreational fishing activities in particular. He was a great supporter of the enforcement side of making sure people did the right thing. Very good supporter. Ex-copper, ex-Victorian footballer, so well known that people actually listened to him, which was important for us. So this particular day, we were... a mate and I were in plainclothes and we were checking areas for ab poaching. This is now late in the day. So it's about 4 or 5 p.m. in the afternoon, daylight saving. And we moved into a place called Smooth Pool. So Smooth Pool's a few k's out on the eastern side of Streaky Bay. So we're up on the far west. And we drove in, and if you know Smooth Pool at all, you sort of drive in this very rocky sort of pathway, and you're confronted with this massive reef of exposed rock, very strong seas. It's good area for rock lobster, abalone, surfing, all sorts of stuff. And then all of a sudden we noticed a heap of cars down in what was sort of a car park, and we thought, geez, what's all that? What's happening there? So we went down, we parked, we got out. We saw a boat out in Smooth Pool. The pool itself, we saw this tinny and someone in the tinny with a fishing rod. And everyone's sitting on the rocks watching it, and then we saw a camera crew and so on. And so we sort of went, what's going on, And of course, there was nothing to do with us. Everything's legal. We couldn't see it. But as we got closer, on the rocks behind some of the people who were sitting there were all these abalone. So they'd actually taken the abalone, taken them from their shell. They were all undersized, so they're quite small. And they're laying in the sun on the rock, which was, why? What's the purpose of that? And so we sort of looked around and then realised it was Rex out in the boat. And next minute there was a flurry because the first guy I came across was the local copper, then the mayor, and then the head of the local fishing association. They're all sitting on the rocks with their kids. And I looked down and I said to the copper, who I knew pretty well, I said, what goes here? What's for the abs? It's just for a fee later. I suppose we shouldn't have them, should we? And I said, fuck no. You've got fishing association people here as well, and there weren't a few, there was quite a lot. And, we got the kids to go and get someone for a barbecue later at Yanabe, and I thought, oh no. So next minute, there's a panic. Greg Newmar, if you've heard that name, was Rex Hunt's manager, the guy that dudded him eventually. and he's gone, we need to go. So they're fucking pulling this tinny in like fast as anything. Rex is hanging on, gets to the shoreline, falls out and does his ankle, and they're packing up like everything. We're sitting there going, well, what's going on? Next we look around, everyone's in cars and going, and the abalone are gone. And so we went over to the ox, and I said to the copper, I said, where's the abs gone? He said, oh, they're in that car. I said, no, they're not. We went over and we said, no, they're not going with you anywhere. All I could see was national TV, barbecue at Yanabe with undersized South Australian abalone.
Shit, yeah.
You know, what they're thinking. So we nabbed all the abalone, and before we knew it, we were the only ones there. Everyone had gone, scattered. And so we ended up going back to Sejuna, where our local station was in those days, bagging them up, tagging them all up, and putting them in the freezer up there as seized. But we could never do any follow-up because there was no one there to make responsible.
Yeah, right.
But poor old Rex, he panicked because he had nothing to do with it, but his producer thought, well, we've got to get out of here. And then there was another time where, with Rexy, we went and had dinner one night at the Thai Orchid in Henley Square, and the guy who runs it, top guy, I think he's still there. And there was myself and a few other of my crew, our director of the day, Rexy, and a couple of his crew. And the owner brings out this big plate of cooked blue crabs. And I thought, fuck, where are these come from? And because in those days, and still today, we've got a few commercial crab fishermen who are very commercial, and very few crabs get to the domestic market, and these just didn't look big enough to be domestic market size. So I sort of skipped out to the kitchen and I said to Booney, I think his name is, where'd the crabs come from? Oh, me got from Man on Jetty. Oh no, you did not. And so we had to say, you need to take them off the table. Not taken by license. It's recreational catch. Look at the people around the table. Well, again, it caused panic, and people got upset. And,
All gone.
Yeah. So again, when I talked earlier about me being irregular, it has to be fact, not fiction. Those sort of things. Those sort of things just grind on me. That as much as there might be Rex Hunt and there might be the director of fisheries and all that there, you just can't do that. You just can't do that. It's just not the right thing. Because other people in the restaurant saw it.
Well, it's a conflict of interest as well, isn't it? Like, you're putting yourself at risk for. You turn a blind eye to it, and then you're in it as well, and you think, "Oh my God,"
Yeah, it's amazing the number of times in my career, in fisheries in particular, that I felt compromised. People were asking things of me that they just shouldn't be asking, and I was quite straightforward when those happened. There was one day I was called into the director's office, and the minister turned up. I won't say who. And we were in the throes in those days of closing down the commercial fishery in the River Murray. And one of the operators recently, we reported him for a number of offences. And of course, if they're going to shut the fishery, they're going to do a buyback process. And if you've got outstanding prosecutions, you weren't going to be eligible. And the minister basically said to me, is there anything we can do about this? And he said, oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. No, forget I was even here, and he walked out. So that was a closer one. But I had another one after that where, and I'll try and do this without compromising, because it could still be quite political.
Don't go there if you don't need to.
But there was this well-known Adelaide fish processor, very well known, and we'd spent some time setting up an operation on his premises because he was buying a lot of fish taken by non-commercial operators, recreational fishermen, whiting in particular. So we did all these obs, saw people coming in, do all the checks on their registration and stuff, and they weren't commercial operators. And then we moved in, did all the evidence gathering, and started preparing our prosecution brief. And I remember I was in my office one day down at Birkenhead, and unbeknownst to me, I had a surprise visitors. It was my director of fisheries of the day and the head of the Liberal Party in South Australia at that time. We're talking some 2 years ago. And their question was, the shut door as they came in, is there anything we can do to not charge this particular person. And I said, sorry. And they said, we want to see if there's any way we can drop the charges against so-and-so. And I said, absolutely not. In fact, you should not be asking me that question, and I want you to leave now, which they did, because they were then embarrassed at the fact that they shouldn't even been there to asking. And the reason for it at the time that the person that we'd pinched, they were nominating for an Order of Australia. And you can't be nominated if you've got pending convictions or convictions. So it was inhibiting his opportunity to become an AO. And, you know, to me, that goes against all the reasons why you shouldn't be an AO. Anyway, the prosecution got bogged down after that. In fact, we ended up prosecuting a shelf company, not the main company, and one of the staff that worked there. So the person involved got away without any conviction.
I bet that still burns in your belly now.
3 years later, he was awarded the Australian medal. It still burns with me because he's still quite a public figure. And you know, if you ask anybody in the industry about him, he's an arsehole. You know,
I think you've got the right to lay straight in bed if you're clean. If you're not, you do hope it catches up with you somewhere. It's
it hasn't caught up to this person yet. So
yeah.
I mean, he had a strong founding in the industry, but you know that doesn't mean it allows him to, you know, to abuse the whole political process just on his behalf. I could never get over the guy who was in charge of Liberal Party at the time even making the move. I did know him. I knew him well from committees and stuff.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I thought he would ever approach me and even ask that question, let alone, you know, put it to me that it was something that they could do.
No, we've got one called the Yeti in our industry, and everybody knows who that Yeti is, bar him.
Yeah.
And I won't say his name either, but everybody in the industry knows what's going on, and I hope to God that this guy one day falls on his sword, or we catch him napping, and you know, he gets found out, because it's, you know, for all the people doing the right thing, and as I said, I can lay fairly straight in bed.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a
God, not good.
There's another one that sort of comes up in the same vein, but not with a compromise. But I remember chasing a guy at Port Broughton. Now we'd get a lot of intelligence.
North of Wallaroo.
Yeah, north of Wallaroo. A lot of intelligence. Nice town, lovely place.
I do. I did buy an esky from Port Broughton. That's the only reason I know about it.
And so I kept getting all this intelligence telling us about this guy, Peter Shearer was his name. And
the clothing guy?
No, it wasn't the clothing guy, if anything but. But he was out every day fishing, and that on the fifth or sixth day, he would pack up all the fish he caught and whip off to Broken Hill and flog them off up there.
Oh, okay.
No licence.
So he was running as a commercial fisherman without the licence.
Exactly. In those days, and probably still today, is the most heinous offence there is in fisheries language. So, but I used to drop into Broughton at any stage I could. So if I was heading back from Ceduna or heading back from Port Lincoln, any hour of the day, I'd drop in there.
Good boy.
So this particular night, I bailed in there about 10 o'clock, and lo and behold, he's just pulled out at the boat ramp, the only car and boat there. And so I searched the boat, and all I could find initially were legal catch fish. And I introduced myself, and I basically let him know that I knew him. And he had another bloke on board, a footballer I'll tell you about in a minute. But so I was determined that there's more to this than what it is. So I ripped the boat apart, and I found all this undersized snapper underneath the bunks in the forward part of the boat. And I can't remember the numbers, but it was quite a lot. And of course, those undersized snapper in those days were considered the best market fish, because they were just big enough to fit in a Weber, just big enough for a couple of people and so on. Well, I just remember there was a lot of them. And so I'm sitting there and I'm going to say, well, Pete, we're in the book. We're going to sit down. I'm going to interview you. And he said, no, hang on. I didn't take them. I didn't know they were there. so this other guy on board the boat said, "Oh no, I took them. And his name was Freddie Bills. So Freddie was a footballer for West Torrens back in the day, and a pretty well-known one at that. And he sat there and described how he caught them and hid them there without Peter knowing about it. And I thought, oh, you fucking liars. And so I ended up, doing the book on him and not being able to do the operator of the boat because I was going to seize his boat and everything. I couldn't because I couldn't lay that on him. And so that was my first near miss with him. The next one was I went in there another day and there was people coming up to me saying, you need to look at Peter Shearer. And I'm saying, where is he? And they say, he's coming into Fisheries Bay, which is the next one on. So I darted up there and I saw his boat coming down the channel. And as I got there, though, he turned around and went back out. Oh, fuck, what's going on here? So I sat there and I spoke to a couple of local operators and I said, what's going on? He said, he's loaded with snapper. And over the bag.
Did he see you?
Yeah, he saw me. And so I then raced back to Port Broughton.
There's the fucking regulator.
By which time he's come into Port Broughton and he's gone. But his boat trailer was at Fisheries Bay. So I think, what the fuck? So one of the local commercial fishermen had actually backed their trailer down. He whipped on it and fucking took off. Hid. So I missed him again. So that really, really got my ire up. I don't miss twice and then, not get a third time. So in the end...
Did you get him on the third time?
I never got him. But in the end, he went, the local publican at the Broughton Hotel...
He was very slippery, wasn't he?
Yeah. The local publican at the hotel, a guy called Ron Whitford, who I used to go to school with, was an ex-copper, was the publican of the Broughton Hotel. He rang me one day out of the blue and said, I've got someone here who wants to have a chat with you. Any chance you're driving up and doing so? And I said, who are you talking about? He said, oh, Peter Shearer. I said, oh, really?
Oh, and he wanted to have a chat with you.
He wanted to have a chat. So I got in the car, drove up to Broughton, sat there in the pub. He was dying of cancer. He had the thing in his throat, he couldn't talk properly. And he sort of laid everything out, knowing full well...
sector out there.
knowing full well that he's never going to be prosecuted because he's in ill health. So I thought, oh, fuck this, and, he gave me everything I knew it was true, and, it sort of satisfied me in the terms that I was on the right track. And then you wouldn't mind it, but 6 months later, I reckon the local copper rang me, and he said, that Peter Shearer, he's gone through remission. He's in full health.
Oh, he's come back.
He's come back. I was like, oh, you're fucking kidding.
Brian, I've just got to write up a ticket. Just stay where you are right there. Brian, I'm back. I just had to write a ticket up for a bloke out the front of you. He had some sardines that weren't capture size. So
okay.
Sorry, mate. Go on. So Peter Shearer.
So Peter Shearer ended up through remission and came back to life, basically.
Well done, Pete.
And
you've done well. All right, that's enough.
I've got to say, I never had a chance to do him. He wasn't.
Was he not a bad bloke to talk to?
Oh, yeah, he was a knocker out.
He was
bloke.
a character.
Yeah, he's a character, and the town people loved him. They loved him. And people in Broken Hill he took fish up to. Well, no one else did. So he had people there loving him as well.
He was a real Aussie character.
Yeah,
he just didn't give a fuck for the rules.
They called him the Robin Hood of fishing. They sort of take from the rich and give to the poor or some bullshit. So yeah, he got away with it. But I mean, the whole purpose of him seeing me that day at the pub was to basically sit there and gloat about what he'd done, how much money he'd earned from it, and he loved telling me. He just loved telling me, I listened because I felt sorry for him, the fact he was dying, and not to mention that not to know that.
Did he buy you a beer?
Yeah, he did.
Fucking champion. How cool is that?
Yeah, very good. That was Peter Shearer in Port Broughton. So every time I go to Broughton these days, that's the first thing I think of is poor Pete.
What decade are we talking there?
Oh, that was in the 90s.
Nice, yeah. Pretty loose still in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's good.
There was a few blokes like that around the place. So there's sort of the characters that that people sort of half supported. And I remember there was a day.
They're almost like a hero, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They are
because
They're like the
two
Robin
things.
Hoods, as you said.
Yeah, two things. They were providing fish to a market that ordinarily they couldn't have, and secondly, it was at a price they could afford, which they couldn't if they paid.
So he was a martyr,
Yeah, I think I don't know what I said to you last time. We did a number of
like a Ned Kelly.
pub jobs. Did I ever tell you about the pub jobs?
No.
This is where we went in plain clothes to local hotels in Adelaide where we
No.
knew the people were selling fish and pinched them.
No.
I got to get into that.
Cut. We got time to talk it.
Yeah, I'll talk about Rudy first. So, again, this was a day when I think it was a helicopter. We'd come across this large net set off, where was it set? Cockle Beach on the bottom of the western side of York Peninsula. Pretty remote in those days. You sort of had to drive through sand dune tracks to get to it. I mean, there's a big net, and it was obvious because it had been in the water for some time. There's a lot of stuff caught up in the floats of it.
Stenhouse Bay.
Yeah, north
down
of there.
around-
Well, north of Hardwick Bay.
Okay.
If you look,
Yeah.
and north of Midleton.
Yep.
And so we saw this net, and we put the chopper down. There's myself and a guy called Leon. And this guy came down and said, "Oh, what's going on?" And we said, "We've come down to look at the net there. Is it yours?" He said, No, I've been sitting up there in the dunes watching it and seeing who it belongs to and all that sort of stuff. Oh, I thought, okay. So Leon says to me, just keep an eye on him, because we started walking down the beach to the other end of the net. So that was the first thing. We looked at the first end we came to, and it was actually buoyed, anchored down with a 6-inch cut of a railway sleeper, so a fairly heavy bit of stuff to anchor it. And we got right down the other end. Now, this net would have been 300 or 400 metres long. It was massive. And it was full of fish as well, I might add. And we got to the other end, and Leon just said to me, keep an eye on him as we're walking along, because he was actually dropping back. He wasn't walking with us, he was actually dropping back. And all of a sudden, away he went. He just darted straight for the sand dunes. And Leon was a bit more agile than me. He was after him. So we both got up to where he was. He had a campsite up there. And
Didn't have the Black Mistress, did he?
yes, did I talk about that one? Did I?
No, that's all right. Yeah, finish it off, though.
Okay.
Finish it off.
And so he was throwing stuff into the bush, and it was all these railway sleeper parts. So the evidence was already there. And he said, no, it was never his net. And we pulled in, and we ended up pinching him for all that sort of stuff. And then he had a woman there with him who was from the Point Pearce Mission, Aboriginal woman. She was camped in there with him. I don't know what I told you, but later on from that, I actually had to call him into our office in Adelaide to actually formally interview him. I didn't have the chance when we were in the chopper. So he turned up this particular day and put him in the office, started talking to him, and he started talking shit. You know, he was actually saying, it wasn't mine and all that sort of stuff. And we started talking about, well, what about the woman that was with you? Oh, no, she wasn't with me. You know, I'm married and da-da. And I actually went over there. It's part of my medical sort of need to relax and do sorts of things, that sort of stuff. And I said, well, where does the woman fit in? He said, oh, no, she doesn't fit in at all. So in the end, my boss next door came in and said, how's it going? I said, no, he's talking shit. He said, right, walk out and leave me alone. Well, Kevin shut the door and he went ears into him. He both said, don't tell me any more fucking shit. You've been telling lies all fucking morning. What's going on? He ended up bleeding it all out and telling what he was over there, shacked up with this bird and all that sort of stuff. His missus didn't know. That's why he came. And it all went on like that. I remember about half an hour later, I went out of the office and there he was at the lift well with his hands on both sides of the lift with his head down, hanging there, just shaking his head. So he ended up being prosecuted, pleaded guilty. Which, I mean, in those days it was a minimal offence in that it was recreational netting, but he made it a big offence by the way he carried on and acted. There was a number of charges laid against him, and hinder and all those sorts of things. So,
As I'm not a real fish guy, but I got a couple of buddies that do fish and whatever. I still believe, bar the snapper looks good. It's not the best tasting fish, is it?
No, I agree. I totally
You
agree.
got to chuck a heap of fucking lemon in there to kill the fish off.
Yeah, no, I've never said snapper were the best fish. I've never understood the excitement of
They
chasing snapper to
They
eat.
look good. Yeah, they look good, and they give you a bit of a fucking ride to get them up to the surface.
Yeah,
but
boom, boom, when they first hook on.
yeah. But
I mean, I've sat there on one day when we were doing some research. So we were on a site out of Port Pirie, and we had all these tags, so we had to pull them up, tag and put them back, pull them up, tag and put them back. In some cases, you've got to split the bladder as well, because otherwise they won't go back down.
Okay.
So it was all on research basis, and I sat there all day and just couldn't stop catching fish. I was so sick of it at the end. There was no excitement in it whatsoever. So I always wondered about people who did that.
Have you got any stories of kingfish up near the?
The power station.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we mentioned this last time, but so kingfish are fairly territorial, and back in the day, the only habitat really where you could find kingfish was Port Augusta, Rapid Bay, and some in the Port River. Very rare, but over recent years, there's been so many escape from the kingfish farms in Port Lincoln. They're everywhere. It's not
So they do farm kingfish.
Oh yeah, that's one of the second biggest farming operation.
I know they're big fish, but is it the Asian market again?
No, a lot of it's local.
Is it?
Yeah, kingfish ceviche.
Does it
and
taste
all that sort
good,
of
or?
stuff. Oh yeah, kingfish is all right.
Never had it.
It's probably the third most popular sashimi species. So you got tuna, salmon, and kingfish. Yeah. So if you get a trio, Norman, that's the three species you'll get. So kingies are right up there.
Yeah, right. I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. So
I'm learning lots.
with kingies, they have a one of these things where they're an ambush fish, so they need to get themselves in an ambush position. So I used to always talk to the amateur guys who fished out of Port Pirie back in the day around the power station, and they used to go and get the Sunday Mail, and away they'd go out off the power station. They'd unfold the Sunday Mail and put 6 or 7 pages on the surface of the water. The kingies actually come up.
They'd see
that,
the shadow,
the shadow as a spot to be in ambush. So all you did then was cast your lure over the top of that, and bang, that's how you caught them. That was as simple as that.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's one for the anglers from the Milne Road.
So they're an ambush fish. They need to attack and be in a position of attack. But I'm not sure, because there's so many around these days. I mean, we went on a charter a couple of years ago, and we caught 2 big ones off not the Neptunes, Pages, the islands just north of KI, between Victor and KI.
Okay.
Yeah, we in close to the rocks, we got 2 quite large ones there, so they're around the place.
What about Trowbridge Island? Have you been out there?
Long time ago.
You haven't been out there recently?
No. They used to run charters out of there. So no, I'm not. There's not been a need to go there. It's all been legitimately run. From what we've always seen, there's never been any intelligence to say back in the day that anything was going wrong on Trowbridge Island. It's very much like Edithburgh. Edithburgh was fairly calm and sedate as well. But in all those coastal towns, you always had a rogue. You always had someone like a Peter Shearer who was out catching fish every day and flogging them somewhere. So I was talking about earlier the pub jobs. I remember there was one down at the Marion Hotel, and we had good intelligence. There was a guy turning up there every weekend flogging snook.
Oh, so he'd come into the pub and just sell snook.
Why you'd want to buy fucking snook is beyond me, because they're even worse than snapper. But anyway.
They're long fillets?
Yeah. We actually chop them up.
Okay.
Because they're a pike-like
shit.
fish. Yeah, you got to eat them fresh as well. So this particular operation was myself and my boss of the day, and we set ourselves up at the Marion Hotel on a Saturday. We got there about lunchtime. Back in those days, we actually got a $20 pub allowance for doing covert work in a pub, so to cover your costs. So we got in there, and it went all day, and by the time we got to about 4 or 5, we were pissed, absolutely knackered. We were fucking gone, and no one had turned up, and it was a long weekend. So we said, oh well, let's have a crack at it on the Monday, the whole day. And so we went back there and got ourselves set. We got our beer, cigarettes, put money in the pool table, got the pool table all set up, about to start playing pool, and this bloke just comes in and walks straight past me, and he's got this big parcel in his hand and these fish tails hanging at the top, and he smacked me in the head with the fish tails as he walked past.
No.
And I go, what the fuck?
You've hit the wrong bloke. You could have hit anyone, but Brian Hemming.
So the boss went up to him and said, "Hey, where you got those?" He said, "Oh, you want some?" He said, "Yeah. Where can we get some?" So I'll come out the car, you know. So we go out the car, and there's a line up there. So we hop on the line, and we get to the front of the line, and the boss said, "This is not your day," and showed the badge, and the guy was pretty embarrassed. In fact, we were really worried.
So do you freeze all the cash?
Oh yeah. So there was a queue behind us, so we'd actually halfway through the queue,
Jeez.
and these pricks behind us weren't going to get fish. So the guy actually said to us, "Do you mind if we pack up and go somewhere else where it's not so embarrassing?" We said, "Yeah, well, let's go." We couldn't get out there fast enough, so we went around and pinched him and all that sort of stuff. And he, of course, we lost our beer, we lost our cigarettes, everything we left in the pub. We weren't going back in the pub, I can tell you. So yeah, he went down.
Question: Is
He fished
there?
them. He got them from Balgowan,
Yeah,
on
right.
the Peninsula.
Okay. Is there? Was there anybody that ever chased you coming back from the fish side that wanted to target Brian Hemming?
Ah, look,
Was there guys that
Yeah,
you were concerned about somewhere along the line that
yeah,
you'd go into this town and go, oh, okay, there's a guy called Johnny here that doesn't like me too much?
yeah. Look,
Because you would create, you're a sheriff, aren't you? So you would create a stature that Hemming was in fucking
yeah. So
the other
you're on
day.
the right path there. If I turned up in a town, someone would recognise me, would know
Straight away there'd be a
something's
phone
happening,
call, mate.
something's going on. So, but there was one particular guy, an abalone poacher, a well-known one, who came from the far west coast, Sejuna Smoky Bay way. He's still around, and he he would turn up in the most unusual places, and he's the one that said to me when there was talk, there was a lot of talk around the day of arming fisheries officers with guns.
Yeah. That's
I was
we
totally
talked
opposed
about
to
that one.
Totally
Yep.
opposed to it. And he's the one that said to me one day, he said, "If you guys arm yourself, we'll arm ourselves, and it won't be pretty."
That's fucking war, isn't it?
Yeah.
How good's that?
And I can understand why you were saying that, because we're going to shoot first or whatever. You just don't know. And I saw it in Victoria, because the officers over there were armed, the fisheries officers, but concealed. They weren't allowed to have a
Show it.
They normally had an ankle holster, and that's where they carried it.
I personally thought that you might have something like, you can go in there with your words and don't take that the wrong way.
Yeah,
But there does come a situation where some prick's got a gun to you
Yeah.
and you've got nothing and you go, okay.
that always came back to attitude. Like
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
your approach, you can approach at different levels. I always had an approach around midstream, like talking like you and I are talking now. And if I needed to kick up, I could kick up. If you showed me distrust or you lied to me, my first line was, "You lied to me, and we're on a different pathway."
I don't like lies.
Yeah. But if they were genuine and that sort of stuff, it'd stay at that level, and you could maintain the peace that way. I was never assaulted. I never arrested anybody. I never needed to. There are plenty of others who were not in that boat. But so with that particular guy, and it brings to another situation.
There's always somebody that fucking hates you, though. Like,
Yeah.
I,
This guy didn't hate me. He just he knew I was a threat, and
there you go. That's the word.
I was a threat, and he so he did some extraordinary things. I remember being at a service station filling up with petrol at Paraka one day, and I'm standing there looking at the Bowser, and I look through the Bowser, and there he is filling up a car right next to me, and he just winked at me. I said, "Al, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Same thing you are." So that was that.
How cool.
Another time I was down.
How cool's that, though?
Another time I was at Bunnings, at Mile End. Never normally go there. My brother lived down there. I went round to get something for Bunnings. I'm walking on the aisle trying to find something. Look through the fucking thing, and there he is looking right at me. I said, "Al, this is not coincidence." He said, "You never know, Brian. You never know." That was that. And then
That's 1 degree of separation, isn't it? It is.
There was another time where I remember heading to my mum and dad's place at Clearview. I pulled over on the side of the road to take a phone call. Opposite Northfield High School. The cricket game was going on. And next minute, I get a phone call from this guy. And he said, "What's the score?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The cricket game. What's the score?" So he was in the vicinity. And the scariest part of it all was that he then tied up with an Asian guy, whose name escapes me now, Mum rang me one day and said, well, I had a bloke here the other day that said, say good day to you. I said, well, what do you mean? He'd been in, because Mum and Dad sold goldfish and tropical fish, all that sort of stuff, from the backyard. So it wasn't unusual for people to go in there to buy fish. But they'd actually left their name and for Dad or Mum to tell me they'd been there. And that was scary.
Wow.
That was getting scary.
That's
And that was them.
That's in your backyard.
Yeah, yeah.
They purposely went there to let you know.
So he ended up getting in all sorts of trouble with domestic violence with a white woman, because he was Aboriginal, and had her captured in Adelaide somewhere. And I don't know the details, but he ended up doing jail time for abalone offences and domestic offences. So, but I know he's around still. He's just one of those characters. And I remember a night where it's about 45 fucking degrees at night, this was, but on the York Peninsula between Port Victoria and Balgowan, so the Point Pearce Road from the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got wind that he's been poaching there all day with a group of young Aboriginal kids and was heading out. So we blocked all the roads, had all the coppers and blocked all the roads. And they finally spotted him on this particular dirt road and were in pursuit. And so while they're in pursuit, he's actually climbed into the tray of the ute and he's throwing the abs out on the side of the road like tomatoes, basically all the way. Finally caught up to him, and we spent hours going back and picking up all the bloody abalone for evidence, but that was another story. In the night, it's not fun. So I took him back to Maitland Police Station and locked him up. And as I said, it was a fucking hot night. And he ended up
45.
He ended up giving the coppers $50 or whatever it was. Said, can you go and get us a carton of piss? It's so fucking hot in here. So we ended up sitting there drinking piss with him for the next 2 or 3 hours at his cost.
Isn't that gold, though?
Yeah.
Isn't it gold?
But I mean, as long as it stayed that level, I was fine. There were times when that same guy and that one of the coppers on York Peninsula, he actually assaulted the copper. There was a bit of a to-do in the pub at Minleton, and the copper went to deal with it, and they king hit him. And so that for the coppers, it turned a different story then. And so he was done for that. But I think he also understood that he'd overstepped in taking that attack at that time. But he's one of these guys that, I remember one of his defences to taking abalone was Indigenous rights to taking abalone, that there was a history of them taking abalone for food. And the abalone that he'd actually had in his possession when it was seized was greenlip. So greenlip abalone is found in deeper water, and normally you need hooker at least to get to it and sustain catch. If it was blacklip, different question, because blacklip were quite close inshore. So he started his defence on that basis, but he couldn't even get the local elders to support it. So it actually fell over, and I think it even went to appeal and fell over on appeal as well. So he was one of these guys that was a bit of a smart ass and tried his best. There was another night we had him barreled up at Baird Bay. He'd been out poaching all day. I was in Adelaide at this stage. But we got word that he was there and he was probably going to come into the Baird Bay boat ramp. And so coppers from Ceduna came down, Streaky Bay Police and my guys, and I got them to set up out of cover around the boat ramp. Someone, I won't say who, made a decision that it might be a good opportunity to have a barbecue. So my guys, who are the experts in the area, were tasked with getting meat and grog for a barbecue, and they all set up on the opposite side to the boat ramp, which is probably 40, 50 minutes drive from the boat ramp, and that was their focus of attention. And I'd said already from where I was, do not approach him if he comes into the boat ramp, because he won't have the abs with him. He'll have them dumped somewhere. And So, lo and behold, the coppers, CIB guys, they jump him at the boat ramp, and he's got nothing, absolutely nothing.
Like you said.
So they all went back to the barbecue.
Fucking listen to what I'm telling you.
Yeah. So there's a couple of side shots to this. Next day, I'm in my Port Pirie Street office. I'm called down to the counter. Someone's there to see you. So I go down. There he is. And he said, "How'd you go with the operation last night?" And he said, "Yeah, I was only out there looking for scallops." And he said, "They're probably on the way to Hong Kong by now." And that's the sort of guy he was, as cheeky as. So he knew he'd got away with it, but he wanted to let us know that, how much he'd got away with. So I sort of bordered on anger. So I said, I want everybody at the Streaky Bay Police Station tomorrow. Everyone that was involved, I want them there. My guys, police, everything. Got the chopper up there, landed in the police yard, sat there, had a debrief.
Did you arrive on the chopper?
Yeah. And
good statement.
yeah. And, there's a lot of apologies, for not having the right focus, not following, the command and all that sort of stuff. What he'd done is what I expected to do. He went to a place called Tairinga, which is just to the other side of the bay, dropped all the shit there. And, of course, once he's pulled the boat out and they're finished with him, he's gone around Tairinga, picked all the shit up and headed off. So, A plus B, easy. So I was pretty irate over that. And, I mean, when we failed like that, it was an embarrassment. We should have had him that night.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's on your head too.
Yeah. In the area where it was, we should have had him because there's no one else around but us and him. So, yeah, so that was a bad one.
Did you debrief all the boys and say, hey, we don't let this happen again?
My approach was, what have we learnt? What did we do wrong? What have we learnt? And why have we learnt? Why didn't we do it at the time? So there's things like the focus on the barbecue. Not listening to instructions that were provided based on the intelligence we had, not listening to local officers who knew the lay of the land.
That's right.
All those were basics at the time.
Yeah, that all laid out for them anyway.
Yeah.
And they still
Yeah.
chose to go.
Oh, look, I was back in Adelaide on comms and I was fucking hankering to be there, I could tell you. But anyway.
It's unreal, isn't it? There's times back in 2003, and I was only pretty young back then, and I had a boss at that stage called James Sunderland, and he liked me. He said, I like the way you operate. And I said, we've got to do like a 2-year study and work out why 1 in 10 frames are going in the first time. 1 in 10.
1 in 10.
Not 9 in 10, 1 in 10. So he said, Waddy, I'll write your fucking receipt, go out there into the market and find out what's going on. So I go around, take photos of everything, and I just hop in my Jeep back then and just fucking go. And I rocked up to this carpentry job, and it was beautiful. It was timber, it was fucking sweet. And I said, mate, you got a fairly substantial bifold going in here. Can you just wrap a bit of hoop iron around every second jack stud? And he said, oh, you better fuck off, mate. And don't forget, I was pretty young. I was probably 35, something like that, 45, 55, something like that, 35. And he said, you better go. I said, look, I'm not here to question what you've done. Your carpentry looks perfect.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm going to hang 250 kilograms off what you've got there. And if it's end grain nailed, it's just going to pull out.
Yeah.
And he said, it won't fail. I said, I'm not debating that. I said, but can you wrap a bit of hoop iron around every second jack stud? And he said, no. And, I don't know where it is these days, whether it's still operating or whatever, but, there's just stuff that I'm not there to make an ass of myself either. I'm just telling you, wrap a bit of hoop iron, chuck a couple of clouts either side of the jack stud. It's never going to pull out.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit like you're saying, is that if I've got experts in the area or experts on this person or experts on that fishery and so on, I listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and make a decision based on my own short knowledge of what the situation is. And there were guys I had working for me in those days who knew the lay of the land of the West Coast like no one else. And, if I didn't listen or follow what they said, we were always going to fuck up. So that's why I did that. I was going to say the other one, I'm not sure if we talked about this last time about guns, but I remember a major operation that I co-coordinated in Melbourne called Operation Tuna, where we decided to target the buyers of illegal abalone, and Melbourne was seen as the main buyer market, Chinatown in particular, and so we set this major operation up with South Australian and Victorian and New South Wales officers. So there was about 50 of us, and Vic coppers, and in immigration, and we hired a big freeze truck, and we actually drove down Chinatown. What come down the street is it Swanson? Not Swanson, the one that comes next. Anyway, slowly drove down, and we raided. Bang, 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 bang. Any abalone we seized went straight in the truck.
Fucking love it.
And I remember the first place we went to, and it may seem unbelievable, but this is factual. This is factual. So in my team were 2 Victorian officers, a South Australian officer, and I think and 2 immigration guys. The first place we hit was one of the bigger restaurants on the left-hand side as we drove down, and the 2 Victorian guys, they were brothers. Their names were Errol and Zorro Parmigiana. That was their name. Seriously, that's their name. These blokes were 6'6" shithouses. They were big boys. So we went in, and the intelligence was we had to go up to the mezzanine floor. So there's this thin flight of stairs. We're all trunched up there. And the first thing we came across was an Asian guy sitting on an esky, like a freezer, a large freezer, like chuck-a-box freezer. And he's sitting there with a porno mag, and he's got his dack standing around his knees, and he's wanking himself. Like, well, I'm going, what the fuck? And
You got a good job description, mate.
we were warned by the immigration guys that these guys would do things to confront you and turn you off or turn you away.
So that was meant to deter you.
Fuck off, mate. But anyway, Zorro, the bigger of the 2 brothers, he just went up and flicked him like a fly off the freezer onto the floor, still now half naked, opened up the freezer, which was chockers with abalone. Next minute, we heard this flurry of bloody feet going up the next flight of stairs. So the immigration guys called a copper up, and they all went up there. They pulled 4 illegals, aliens, out of the roof.
So they're all green card as well.
Yeah,
So they got done as well.
Yeah, and we got such a shitload of abalone from there. Anyway, we ended up taking, I can't remember, it was 14 or 40 tonne of abalone out of that street that day.
Jesus.
As we got towards the end, the word was there that we were there, and you couldn't mistake the fact we were there. There's so many of us. So I went back to we had a secondary list of targets. There was a Chinese grocery shop in Swanson Street on the corner of Chinatown. So my team, we went back there, and I was standing by. I'd gone in, and there was people being served, so we didn't want to interrupt this guy as we sort of meandered around, had a look. And I'm standing by the back door, just standing there, arms folded. Next minute, the door flies open. This bloke comes in, a young Asian bloke, and he's got this bag, and he actually dumps it on the floor right on my fucking toe. Like, fucking dumps it right there. I thought, what the fuck? So I looked down, it's a bag of abs, bag of frozen abalone. He's moved from another premises. So I just said to him, not your day, mate.
I'll have to read the Penthouse Abalone Wars because I know that they did a story on that, didn't they? I've got to write another ticket, so just hang on a sec.
The guy around the corner.
All right, yeah. We were down the Chinatown, weren't we?
Yeah.
And it was a very good breakthrough, wasn't it, with how much sting went on.
You're on?
Yes, we're going.
Sorry. Well, the follow-up to that was that there was weeks of interviewing and putting prosecution briefs together on most of the restaurants that were hit that day, and some of them were the biggest restaurants in Chinatown. The side story is that young bloke who dropped the bag on my toe, he was actually arrested because he tried to run. When he realised who I was after I spoke to him, he took off. And the 2 guys at the door grabbed him, and he got through them as well, so they had to chase him down Swanson Street. They actually got him back in the end, so he was done for hinder and a couple of other charges as well, so he made it worse than what it really could have been for him. In fact, he probably wouldn't have. He could have been done with possession, low level.
Is the abalone still at the level it was before?
Look, I'd like to say it's not, but there's nothing to say it isn't, and I'm not sure the enforcement these days is at the level it was back in those days.
Do you think it's backed off?
Maybe, but you can buy legitimate abalone these days. So if you do need it, you can go and buy it at the retail price. I mean, following up from Operation Tuna, we did another one in Cabramatta in Sydney, and a few months later, and again we involved a number of agencies, including tax, believe it or not, and in Cabramatta, which was like a small Vietnamese, highly Vietnamese community, and we had this similar result, not to the volumes we had in Melbourne, but there was a lot of abalone seized. And I remember one of the target places I had, again, it was one of those typically Chinese restaurants up a flight of stairs. So I was with myself, one of my officers, a New South Wales, and a big burly New South Wales copper. And he went up first. And probably 30, 40 stairs. It was I remember it being quite a long walk. And we got up there, and there was this flurry. And over in the dark side of the corner was a table of about 10, 12 Asians playing mahjong for money. And money went everywhere. So the copper went over and said, "Don't worry, boys, we're not here for your mahjong, not here for your money, we're here for abalone today." And so the sort of took the sting out of it a bit. And we didn't find it. And then I reckon one of the staff members said something to me about the toilets. Something made me go to the toilet. So into the women's toilet, and there's this massive fucking freezer. As soon as you went inside,
it was full of abalone.
Full of abalone, yeah. So we took all that. The police actually brought in other police to deal with some of the other issues. So those times can be rather scary. But I remember another time where I probably put my kids in a situation I should never have done, and we knew for some time that there was a lot of netting going on in the Port River, the back part of the Port River. If you know the area at all, where the Kmart car park is, so you're going into the up parts of the river towards West Lakes, and that area is full of bream, good sized bream, and so we'd always get these reports that there were people activity in that area on a Sunday night in particular. Sunday night just happened to be the night I took my boys home to their mum because we were separated at that time. I had my weekends with them. And so I said to the boys, we had a couple of hours or an hour or so to go. I said, let's just go in here and have a quick look. And it's dark. And so we pull in and the boys said, "Dad, there's something over there, And I could just see a light, I couldn't see much else. So I said, I can't remember whether I took them with me. I think I did, actually. Got my big torch out, the big fucking truncheon torch, and went for a walk. And so I'm sort of got the torch on in the rocks along the edge there, the causeway, and all of a sudden I see this net, and I thought, oh, fuck. And then I look up, and on the other side of this particular causeway area, I see
dude in a boat.
No, just people scurrying in the dark, just silhouettes in the dark on the other side. And I thought, oh, fuck. And so I thought, well, we need to back out of here. I got on the radio and called up. One of my guys lived locally, another guy not so far away. So they were there in a flash, got the coppers in. In the end, we had 12 Vietnamese there. We had 5 nets strung across this particular area. And in the car park of Kmart was the guy who was running the operation. He had 5 outstanding warrants for serious offences. So I often look back on that as, it was a good outcome in terms of closing it down, but that could have got a lot worse. And I should never, ever have had my kids there. Never, ever. They've never forgotten it. No, that's one of those things.
At least they got to see what Dad did.
Oh, yeah, they did that. They did that a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember chasing, again, some Asians taking abalone off the reefs down at Passport and Selix Beach. So typically you got the cliffs. They'd go down, they'd rip off the reef down there, then they'd come up the cliff paths. And this particular day we got the word that we're there, we're doing another job, I was out with them in our private time, and a patrol got there as a one man, which is unusual. So I went there, and I've still got the photos today of Dale standing halfway down the cliff, pointing to where they dumped the bags of abalone. And so yeah, they got to see that sort of stuff there as well. But
Did they ever put a good Christmas show on for you?
at fisheries,
Yeah.
yeah, we always used to put a big fishery show.
Where did you go?
I was Father Christmas.
You're too skinny for a Father Christmas.
No, I've got an outfit that makes me fatter. Yeah, we used to run it at Birkenhead, where our office was. There's lawns there on the banks of the Port River.
Yeah.
So we'd involve all the staff and their families, the kids, had presents for them, and all our volunteers, the fish care volunteers, would be there as well. So it was quite a big show. We'd really put an effort into trying to, make people know that we appreciate what they've done and what they did. So yeah, but just going back to the kids, that's when they sort of you think back and you think, why? Why do they do? I mean, if one of my officers or one of my staff did that, I would chastise them till the cows came home. That what are you doing? And you just have this. What I used to say, that hide behind the badge. You get this non-fear thing that takes over. Adrenaline pumps in, and you want to. It's the chase. You actually want to get the outcome at the chase. Now I can tell you, if those two guys hadn't turned up at that, down at Port Adelaide there that night, I would have been in serious trouble, because I had a lot of meterage to make to get back to the car, and having to pass a lot of people that weren't friendly. So, even the coppers said to me the week after that guy in the car, he's been wanted for some time, and he's a dangerous man, the one with the outstanding warrants. So yeah, it certainly tidied up that piece of intel though. That's what was going on. But these nets were chock-a-block with brim, chock-a-block, because they went right across. It's like an opening that goes
Just
in.
swimming straight into it.
Yeah, straight into it. They're like blocking the entrance and exit to any fish in the area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's pretty crazy. Crazy. As I said, my brother-in-law, his dad was with the government here in Australia there, and they were involved in some pretty heavy traffic. He's passed now. He's only just passed recently, but he was federal. He was and I had one night with him up in Townsville, and he said to me, I said to him, was there ever a guy that scared you? And he said, yeah, Johnny. And Johnny had a cut-off, sawn-off shotgun that was in his lap, and he'd come to the car and just popped it like that on the windscreen. Yeah. And yeah, this guy was a big guy, guy.
Well, like I said, thankfully it never escalated to that level, and the times where officers were placed in danger, and we did a lot of training with officers to soften the impact of this sort of stuff, particularly with SAPOL, were, I would state, half the fault of the approach by the officer in the first place, whether it's because put himself in danger or his mannerism or the way he spoke to people. If you go in straight away talking down to people, you've got nowhere to go. If you're yelling and screaming at them, you can't go any further. So you've really got to come in at the tone we're talking now until it gets to a point of escalation where you can then
drop it down,
Don't let it escalate, or lift it up if there's a need to do so.
Yep.
So there's a couple of poachers down at Cape Douglas. Cape Douglas is south of Blackfellas Caves, near Neem Valley, near Mount Gambier way, down the southeast. So this particular day, I was with a local guy, Alan, and we were driving down Cape Douglas. It was a beautiful day, beautiful poaching day, and we noticed a vehicle sort of suspiciously parked in an area above a good diving site. And so we sat off it a while, and for the vehicle to exit the area, it had to go through two rocky cliffs area, so there was just enough room for a car to come through. So I said, we're going to sit on the other side of that, and when they come through, we'll have a check. We had enough suspicion to be able to do so. So we did that, and they were aggressive from the moment they got out of the car. And these were ex-army, as we found out later. In fact, one had been kicked out of the army for bashing his officer up in Darwin. I didn't know that at the time. And luckily, the local lad, Alan, knew one of them, been to school with him. So he had a rapport. So I actually said to him, step aside with him and settle that down, and I'll deal with these two the best I can. And in the end, that other guy sort of stepped over and said, no, these guys are okay. I thought, fuck, thanks for that. At this stage, I'm asking to open the boot up where all the diving equipment was, all the abs were. This is only a small sedan they were in as well. And so what we end up saying was, look, this might only go to an expiation, you know, an on-the-spot fine. Do we get more details? Did a quick interview with them and got out there as fast as we could. Went down to local police at Mount Gambier, I reckon we went, or Port Macdonald, and said, this is what we've done. These are the guys. And they said, fuck, they're pretty dangerous. They're known for assaults in the area already since they've been back from Darwin. And so the upshot was we took them to court, and they one of them had a real outburst to the magistrate. Oh, you know, words to the effect, this shouldn't be happening. You know, he told us that we weren't going to be prosecutors, been on the spot fine, we'd get our gear back, The magistrate just looked at him and said, shut up, and dealt with them accordingly. So we got away from there. Never heard from them again. I did pass him in the street one day in Mount Gambier, and he went like that to me, like pointing a gun at me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, but I've never seen or heard from him to this day since. So there's always those circumstances.
There would still be people that that know Brian Hemming, and it's one of those things in life, you know, where we're only a couple of hundred years on from.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope that it's not as impactful as it was in those days. I enjoy the fact that I can go to a lot of these places now and talk to people like they're old friends.
I think the fact that you approach the majority of the times civilly, that you weren't the aggressor.
I remember...
There's always one or two that says, there's fucking Hemming.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, again, the guy I was talking about earlier, the Aboriginal guy, in court in Adelaide, and... third day of trial, and he was looking at jail time. And he came in, he had his mother with him and his entourage. And he came over and said good day, shook my hand, all that sort of stuff. And I said, good luck today. You know, I was genuine. I was good luck. You know, if you win this, well done. One of my blokes, an ex-copper, he came over and said to me, what the fuck are you doing? I said, what? He said, what the fuck? You know, he's a crook. You know, you don't fucking deal with this guy's an ex-copper. And I said, there's nothing wrong with what I've just done. He said, what do you think it's showing all these other people that support us, like police officers and stuff? I said, it's showing them that, you know, this guy is, you know, going down. And, you know, so what? What else? So this, that erupted that day, but it erupted not long after where... I really had to take him to task. It got to quite an argument, and his view on life was totally different than mine, and I think that's got to do with the way he was policing when he was with the coppers and that. But the fact was, if you've been caught, you do the time, you fix the crime. There's no reason why you can't have a relationship after that.
What year did you stop the fisheries? When did that stop?
2002. That's when I went to transport.
Okay, so transport took you up to where? 2012.
2012. Took a couple of years off, and then I went to AMSA, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, as National Operations Manager.
Currently still or gone?
No, I retired a second time then in 2018, so 6 years ago.
Okay, cool.
Been retired ever since. Do the occasional electoral work, or
do they still call on you from time to time in regards to systems, and what do you think?
Yeah,
because to me it would be like being an ex-president, that you know, all the presidents at some stage have been called on
Yeah.
along the way to make
Yeah,
the right choice for the next one. So,
Look, I've had
and I say that in total respect. Like, seriously, it's
yeah.
you're of that level and of that authority. That the other question I had, who was the predecessor for you? Who took on your role when you retired?
Oh, that's from fisheries.
Yeah, let's talk fisheries because I know the
That's another
road
story.
transport got in there, but
It's another story, and one of the things I've learned in life is never look backwards. So when I left fisheries, the guy that took over, I felt was less than adequate. I'm not expecting him to be at the level I was at that time, but he was pretty laid back and didn't treat people the way I would have been treating them. And so I was being contacted by a lot of people, including our volunteers, saying this is not good, not right, so on.
hang on, I'm in the road transport at the moment. Like,
Yeah, I had a guy ring me one night in tears, one of the chief volunteer guys.
can you come back?
So I contacted the boss of that person and asked to catch up, and he I've never forgotten it. Barry. We sat down for lunch in the Maya Centre, and I started to say what I wanted to say. He said, "Brian, before you go any further, I just want to say to you, move on. What's left is not your problem." They were the words he used. And he basically then said, "I'm not interested in anything you've got to say about the people who've got in the job now." That was it. So that was my lesson. Lesson 1,
What year was that?
2002. The lesson then was
2 years
don't
before
look
the
back.
limits. Okay.
Don't look back.
No, that's fair. Cool. No, I take that on as well. Like, you know, it's not.
We all manage differently.
It's a journey, and sure, you're going to take some of those things from that journey, and you hope that the next guy that puts your sheriff badge on takes some of that hard etiquette that you worked hard for
Yeah.
to ensure it
What I did see over time, though, was
elapse.
the relationship we'd built with the industry itself, because they were paying the big dollars for research and enforcement through their license fees. So there was contractual arrangements that were managed yearly, and I see now that these days it's every 3 years. So they've minimalised the contact they have to have with industry. That breaks down all the relationships, and every time I run into an industry person now, one of the first things I always hear them say, "We're not the same as it was. We don't have that relationship with you
They'll be
guys."
doing whatever they want to do.
Yeah,
And
because I sit on the board at the Australian Maritime and Fisheries Academy, a trading academy down at Port Adelaide, and most of the board members are fishermen, a couple of pollies, but most of them are fishermen who I've known in the past. I get on fantastic with them because back in the day, I got on fantastic with them then as well. If they did the wrong thing even. I mean, the guy who's our chair, I remember a day when he pulled into Wallaroo in the 80s he had the smallest Spencer Gulf prawn vessel called the Santa Ana, and the deck was full of snapper. Now they're not allowed to take snapper, prawnies, and all he did as he came in when he saw us was kick all these fucking fish over the side, and people were throwing nets over and everything to try and get them, and so that was the way he operated. But today, I'll tell you now, he's one of my closest colleagues. I get on so well with him, and we've talked about those things in the past and how he did a lot of those things in the day, and that's what's made him what he is now. But at the same time, I can't deny the passion he has for safety in the industry, and that's why he's chaired this academy, because our whole focus on training is safety. Years ago, not that many years ago, a decade ago, we were losing fishermen regularly at sea through non-safety, for safety reasons. They weren't safe. Now we've got safety management systems in place. We've got drills in place that this is what you do when a man overboard.
All those things that you put in place a long time ago. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, it
look,
makes a difference.
I do think there's a lot of stuff that I do in our industry as well, where I'm a contractor, but the influence I've got in the high end market where I operate is that I can walk into a theatre and killer. I can walk into a theatre and the people in the theatre don't want to attack me.
Yeah.
They're happy that I'm in there. I'm not there as a threat, as you said before.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but there's nobody coming behind me.
yeah.
I've got one guy, Sonny Lerm, that works here with the paranormal stuff,
Oh yeah.
and he's a lot younger. But I've tried to bleed him through here also, so that it's a bit like you to me. The knowledge that you
Yeah.
send this way, I'll send that way as well, and it just feeds to the people that I want to feed.
Yeah.
Because before too long, you're not going to have anybody left from
Yeah.
Australia
Yeah.
that is going to actually uphold the Anzac spirit,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
That worries me.
across the ditch. Yeah, fuck oath it does.
Yeah.
It has to.
I mean, the other thing I was going to mention was about the whole relationship. You're talking about succession and so on, and I've got to say that the most longing relationships I've had with people that I've worked with over the years have been my personal assistants. The people who I've worked side by side with me on every day, I'm still either close to them, catch up with them regularly,
Isn't
or on
it
Facebook
fantastic?
contact.
Yeah, the culture's just beautiful.
Yeah, and
you
they're the
could-
people that made me. Because without them, I
Sure.
would never have been able to do what I did, and I acknowledge it every time I catch up with them, because they're just a special people in my life. People like Natalie, who I couldn't do what I did without her behind
Sure.
me, supporting what I did at the time. I mean, I was away from home a lot, and she knew the job though, because she had been a fisheries officer herself. She understood the need and means by which things had to be done. So. There's another one I mentioned again about what happens when you go one way and not the other. And there's another poacher called John Ray McGovern back in the day, prolific poacher on the York Peninsula in particular. And this particular time we had intelligence again that John was operating in the area around Cockle Beach, adjacent to Millerton on the west coast of the York Peninsula. And so I set up an operation, got in, and nothing happened in the first day. And we all were staying at the Millerton Hotel, and we had a massive piss up, this particular night, which wasn't unusual, when it's an unfortunate thing, but it was the way we dealt with things at the time. But this particular night, I'd gone outside for whatever reason, and I noticed a car right down the same street over the main road, just sitting parked. And I thought, that's odd. And so I tried to get closer, snuck around the back street, and it was John McGovern's car. And he was in the car with someone else, a woman. And I thought, you bastard, you're sitting there watching us.
You fucking know what's going on.
Yeah. So I went back and I grabbed about half a dozen guys and I said, get to bed. And we were up at 4 before light, and we were heading down to the coast. So went down. There was a guy called Max, Natalie was there, and one or two others. And I parked well south of where I knew he was operating. And we walked through the sand dunes, like forced march through the sand dunes. One of the guys, Max, had to give up. He was fucked. The only one that still walked all the way through was Natalie. To her credit, she kept up, kept pace. And we got to the area where I thought he was just in time to see him coming out of the water. Wetsuit on, bag by his side, coming out of the water. I thought, there we go. So we marched on and came across a rough shank work campsite. There's his car, bit of a tent, all that sort of shit. And he's there, and so is the woman. And so down we go, and the others followed not long after. And I said, how's it going, John? Usual shit, and yeah, I know what you boys are worrying about. You're on the piss last night. I don't know why you're down here now. And he said, well, we know why. You've been out poaching again. He said, nah, not at all. So Natalie opened the back door of the car, and there, all this ab was sitting in the footwells, the back seats, and it was a lot of abs. And he said, "Oh, you wouldn't deny me that, you know. We're just going to get this was December. This was just a bit, you know, get a bit of money for Christmas presents.
What
for
are
the
they
kids.
worth? What's an ab worth back then?
$20 each was the
Okay,
going,
so
going
you
thing.
got
So I'm
200.
picking up $20 bills on the ocean floor, is what they used to tell me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so there he is. We brag, bag, and tag him. The backup guys were on their way, and having a bit of a chat to him. I said, John, we're going to take this, we're going to take that, da da da. And this was about his 8th or 9th pinch, and so it was all friendly. And then all of a sudden, the backup guys arrive, and one in particular, he came in and he sort of thought, "What's going on?" I said, "What do you mean, what's going on?" He said, "Well, fuck, why aren't we doing this and why aren't we doing that?" I said, "Why?" "Oh, well, fuck, we've got him cold, got all his abs." So I said, "What do you want me to do with him? Roll him over and kick him in the dirt or what?" He said, No, we should take everything off him except the fucking underpants he's got on. I said, "Why? Why? We only can take what was aiding and assisting the fishing operation. We got his car, got his diving gear, not taking his wife, and so that sort of laid the law down a bit there that, this is where an approach can go wrong, that we'd already had the situation in hand. Someone like that comes in and disturbs the whole situation. They can go from this to that so quickly. John was not one to go violent, but if he was there to protect his wife or thought his wife was under danger, what are you going to do? Anyway, that was settled later on, but anyway, it should not have needed that sort of approach coming in over the top.
It's certainly it's a very well oiled machine, though, isn't it? That you're really chasing the people that are doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And I reckon what's good about it is the machine that you were running back then, up until 2002, was a real war on the abalone. I tip my cap. I think it's fantastic.
So
I don't know where it's at the moment.
So we're at nearly 3 hours again.
Yeah, we're nearly
And
there.
there are many more stories.
Can we go again?
We're going to have to.
I haven't got a problem with
that. There's a
that.
whole other side than just abalone.
I would love for it to continue. Honestly, Brian, it's
I'm happy to do so.
If you're happy to come back again in
Sure.
2025 and
Sure.
keep the saga going, I think it's there for everybody to listen to. I've got a lot of fish friends and I've had a lot of good feedback from the first one saying,
Yeah.
fuck the regulator, how cool was he? And once again, I try to break it up, the first part of it with just your trip.
Yeah.
And just try and to soften it. And
I mean, the whole point is that, they were big days, and I'm not to say they're not these days, but they were huge days.
sure,
And it was go, go, go every single day. Every single day we'd sit there operationally and say, where are they going to be today?
love it.
Where are we going to put our effort today, rather than just be randomly driving around or in the boat, just, patrolling around. We'd look at where we're going to target that day, and how many times that came off was exceptional. Now, like I said, this is more than just abalone, which we can talk about another time.
Sure.
But I couldn't do that without the team I had. They were great people to work with, and a lot of them aren't with us anymore. But they were terrific. There was guys from the past, there were guys from the new era, and there were younger ones that came in after. So,
how much wiser are we all listening to the stories? I still think this format, as a male, I'm not sure the females are really involved with this sort of format, but as a male to a male, it's a very good format to talk in general, just in regards to your life and my life.
Yeah.
Not saying it's not accepted by the females either, but what I'm saying is it's a good format to get, as I said.
I could sit here and talk for 3 hours about the female part of this, where we employed female officers for the first time. Natalie was the first fisheries officer in South Australia as a female, and how we employed them from that point on to the end. When I left, 30% of the workforce were women.
I'd love to continue that in the next story.
They made not just a marginal, a massive difference to how officers were treated by industry and fishermen alike. And the other thing we need to talk about next time is the misnomers or the things that wreck fishermen think are fact that aren't fact. You know, all you got to do is look at some of their Facebook sites, and you have to sit there and say, that's so wrong. You know, it's just misinformation, it's non-information, and it's just incorrect. And the unfortunate thing is they're out there with that mantra that, you know, like Persia are doing the wrong thing by closing the snapper fishery. You know, I've got detailed information where the snapper fishery should have been shut back in the 90s. Should have been shut back in the 90s. You know, because of the biomass of the fishery was such on a weak state.
Sure.
And yet, you know, all you hear now is when are they ever going to open the fishery again? They'll open it when the research says it can be opened again.
I'm a very big credit for the people that can do the task, and I'm 100% for females. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not down the path of knocking females in regards to the podcast. Podcast is male to male, female to male.
I hear what you're saying there.
I'm not having a go at that one. What I'm saying is that as a format to get this conversation started was Ash White and Brian Hemming to have a chat. And where it's gone now we're into our third one, which is 2025, which is fantastic.
We haven't got to transport yet.
So, you know what I mean?
Or AMSA.
And it opens up so much cans of worms that if we don't try to have some sort of history on it, if you're not involved in it, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't know what's gone on.
As a regulator, the most important thing is for people to know what the regulation is, but more importantly, why the regulation is there. And I used to always say to people working for me, if there's any doubt in your mind why this regulation is in place, go back to the parliamentary first and second reading speeches when the politicians has presented the bill to Parliament saying this is why we want to change the law. This is what we're changing it to because da-da-da. Leaves you no uncertainty then as to what the law is and why the law is there, and should not taint the way you enforce the law.
We're going to leave it there tonight. Brian Hemming, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ash.
It's been a beauty again. Look, mate, thanks for doing episode 2. We're going to do episode 3 in 2025. So, Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, you too, and the listeners.
And thank you for your time tonight.
No worries. Cheers, boy.
This has been a Milne Road Studios production with Mr. Brian Hemming.
That was 3 hours.